Am I the a-hole for publicly calling out a friend for sending my fiancé inappropriate messages? This is going to be a long one, and throwaway for the obvious reason. I know the title makes it seem absolutely obvious, but let me explain. My fiancé, Josh, has a close friend group of guys from college we see rather regularly, at least the ones that stayed in our city, including his best friend Matt. His best friend's wife, Addison, has a friend, Lila, that was integrated into their group before I met my now fiancé. So apparently Lila has had a crush on my fiancé before I met him, and even tried to get Matt's now wife to set them up. Josh made it clear he wasn't interested. Unfortunately, it seems she never gave up hope that he would come around. Fast forward to Josh and I meeting, really hitting it off, so he wanted to introduce me to his friends. We met up with everyone for drinks one night, and apparently Lila wasn't given a heads up Josh was in a relationship by Addison, because the look on the girl's face when he introduced me was somewhere between pure disgust and shock. Everyone else was friendly and welcoming. She was icy, and Addison was a little quiet at first, but then warmed up. I get it, she was probably trying to be loyal to her BFF that had a crush. Fast forward about a year, Matt and Addison are getting married, with Josh being the best man, and of course Lila, maid of honour. I didn't feel any sort of way because I'm secure in my relationship. He's not interested in her, and he just had to walk down the aisle with her. Matt and Addison even set it up so he could sit with me at the reception, much to Lila's displeasure. Well, at the reception, as she kept coming over and trying to flirt with Josh, saying to not forget that the best man is required to dance with the maid of honour, which I flatly just told her that's not a thing. Well, about 2 weeks ago, we got engaged. Yay. There is a group chat I was added into once I had established my own friendships and wasn't just Josh's girlfriend, where people organise pub nights, beach trips, etc. Josh announced our engagement in it a day later, and everyone other than, you guessed it, Lila, congratulated us. Huge shock, right? Well, now to the issue we are here for. Friday night, around 1 to 2 a.m.-ish, apparently Lila decided to message Josh privately. The first was something like, "I was just thinking about you," followed up with a semi-nude photo, then, "You're not married yet," and a bunch of other inappropriate stuff. He didn't see it until he woke up yesterday morning. We were just chilling in bed checking emails, etc., and he just says, "What the F?" then hands me the phone. Obviously, I was wicked ticked off, as was he, so he just shot back a message telling her that it was highly inappropriate and disrespectful, and not to contact him again. She then attempts to backpedal with excuses. She was drunk, and then, "Oops, I sent it to the wrong person, don't tell OP." The last part pushed me over the edge, and I asked him to screenshot it to me. I told him I wouldn't include the photo. Revenge porn is never okay, but I was going to post it in the group chat because this is the last straw, as long as he was fine with me doing so. So I did, and I said that we were done with this disrespect and would no longer be engaging with someone who would do something like this. Not the most mature on my part, but I think everyone needed to know. And wow, did the chat light up. Lila pretty much immediately left the chat, but everyone else was so shocked she would do that. Lila went crying to Addison because she said I bullied her, who feels somewhat torn because she wishes that it was handled privately, but she's only escalated any attempts to shut her down. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for putting her on blast by posting her text to my fiancé in the group chat to hold her accountable? Everyone else is disgusted with her, but my fiancé's best friend's wife feels it should have been handled privately. Yeah, I mean, Opie's clearly not afraid of being confrontational. I feel like someone who is afraid of being confrontational would probably try and do it privately, but like Opie said, this is the last straw, and I totally understand where she's coming from. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole, and good on you. Except you didn't really call out a friend, because Lila has never been your friend, and if anyone tries to defend her actions or thinks you were wrong for publicly calling out her behaviour, they're not your friends either, and feel free to cut them off. Oh, and Josh sounds like a stand-up guy. Congrats on the engagement. Don't invite Lila. Or do, just to rub it in her face. Opie replies, "Thanks, I am super excited." Oh hell no, she would never get an invite. And I only used friend because I didn't know what else to say, as I kinda rage-typed this. I don't know if this was her last-ditch effort to get him. One of the other women, who was a long-term partner to one of Josh's closest friends, texted me privately with some choice names for her and said, "Yeah girl, burn that crap down." Lila has tried to hook up with her boyfriend of 9 years when she was on a long-term work trip, so we feel similar about her. Not the a-hole. I don't understand what people are thinking in these sorts of scenarios. Let's say your bid to be the other woman or man succeeds. Is that person who was really so ready to drop their significant other the minute someone else showed interest a catch? Never mind the selfish aspect, it's self-destructive. They're setting themselves up for similar drama. You lose them how you found them. Opie says, right? Honestly, any person that would break my trust is not someone I would want to be with. I think some people get off on the chase or being able to steal a man. I think she is just a horrible person that can't fathom a guy would turn her down. Yeah, it's all ego. Another comment says, so let me get this straight. She repeatedly pursued your fiancé after repeatedly being told no, respectfully, privately, and by Addison, completely disrespects you and tramples all of your fiancés and your boundaries, then has the gall to expect you to give her respect by handling it privately. Respect is given when earned. Blow that group chat up and show the group what their friend is really like. Not the a-hole for sure. Maybe buy her a dictionary with the word respect highlighted and tabbed because she clearly has no idea what the word means. Opie replies, she exited the group chat so quick once I posted it. I did note that there was a basically nude photo that was sent, but said I have too much class to send it. I have zero respect for that shameless woman. Not to my face, but apparently she had made comments when we started getting serious that she didn't think I was his type. One of our other friends said, well, we know what isn't his type for sure, and she got mad. I think her bad behaviour was tolerated for too long. When you keep pushing, eventually you're going to push too far, or push the wrong person. Okay, now for an update. So I promised an update to my original post. I was surprised at the amount of responses I received. Thank you to everyone for your words of support, and also for making me out like I wasn't a total psycho for sharing the messages with everyone. I read through some of the comments and got a good laugh at some. One person had the balls to tell me I should treat her in kindness and show grace. I will give you credit for being willing to do it on the post and not sending a private message, because I got some pretty rude private messages, but yeah, I don't owe her any sort of kindness. On to the fallout. Josh and I are obviously fine, and that was never going to be an issue. He's amazing. We communicate well and don't have secrets. Matt came over to talk to Josh and apologise, though he had nothing to apologise for. He had a long talk with Addison about how he felt it was way out of line to tell me it should have been handled privately. He said he told his wife that Lila is an issue in their relationship as well, because she always invites herself along when they're doing things or going out as a couple. She constantly complains and then always gets too drunk, so she has to spend the night. I guess he has said something in the past, but she always lets Lila steamroll her. He put his foot down and said she needs to set boundaries with her and they need to take time apart. She agreed, but expressed her fear of Lila's reaction. Well, apparently that conversation went about as bad as you'd think. She decided to do it over a phone call, and Lila lost her mind. She accused me of gaslighting. I'm pretty sure she doesn't actually know what that means. Then she tried to explain what happened again, which went from it was sent to the wrong person, it wasn't even a big deal, Josh has always led her on so she thought he wanted it. What? She was so wasted she doesn't really remember sending it, and finally, blaming Addison for not trying hard enough to hook them up. When she finally told Lila that they need time apart so she can focus on her marriage and work, she absolutely lost it. She told her that she can't end a long-term friendship over the phone, so she was going to come over because she owes it to her to say it to her face. She told her no, and Josh told Addison to let Lila know that she wouldn't be let in and the cops would be called. She hung up and they both blocked her number. This girl is really wicked insane. I had a talk with Addison and she apologised for trying to smooth things over because she didn't want to deal with the wrath of Lila, as she had seen her go off on other people in the past. I forgive her, but I'm going to move slowly with that friendship to see what her actions show. I do feel bad because that was obviously a toxic friendship, which seems like a kind of a trauma bond, but I'm not a psychiatrist. I just never want to get in the way of Josh's friendships, and I know Matt is very important to him. So she's gone, at least for now. But regardless whether her and Addison eventually reconnect, we're having nothing to do with her ever again. This all actually tightened my friendship with Sarah, who has been the long-term partner of another one of their friends, and she has been a major supporter. We always got along really well. She's coming out for girls' night with my other friends and I too. She was ready to go to war for me. So that's the silver lining out of all of this. I hate drama. Honestly, it worries me this person is shaping young minds for a living because she is obviously not mentally or emotionally well. I loved my partner more than I ever knew was possible, but somehow this just made us even more solid. I'm pretty sure we've heard the last of her, but she has no power in my life, so that's that. I guess the moral of all of this is don't be a pushy hoe bag and send unwanted photos and texts. No means no, kids. Okay, we've reached the end of that story. I think a good reminder to analyse your friend group every now and again and see if you like who you're hanging around. I feel like too often we deal with people like Lila here and put up with them just because they've always been around, but in reality you don't have to. Give me your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we're on Am I the A-hole as well. This one was written by Throwaway Account and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I'd rather break up than do something in bed? We've been together since senior year of college and have talked about marriage. We're not exactly sexually adventurous, just normal stuff, but we've been trying a few more things lately. She said that she really wants to try pegging. She said we've already done anal, so I shouldn't be too opposed. Except we only did it because she wanted. I can take it or leave it. I told her that I would never agree to pegging and she'll just have to forget about it. She bought a strap-on to try to convince me it wasn't that big of a deal. No kink shaming, but I have no interest and don't want to try. She said that if I don't do it, she'll never be able to experience it. I, half-jokingly, told her that if she keeps pushing it, she'll be free to experience it with whoever she wants, and she started to cry. Should I just do it because she wants, or should she respect my decision and drop it? Edit, a bit of context, we were both raised in evangelical churches and have since left. What's adventurous to us is pretty tame to many. It's also why we have difficulty discussing consent and boundaries. Jeez, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty extreme thing, and, that can cross boundaries for a lot of people, I'd imagine. Let's see what the comments think. She bought a strap-on to try to convince me after OP expressed no interest. Your girlfriend is a jerk. You're not the a-hole. Why can't she respect your boundaries? I'd want to break that off too. Not the a-hole. Your girlfriend shouldn't be trying to pressure you into doing any sexual acts you don't want to do. Most of us women are very aware of issues with consent. Seems your girlfriend has, hopefully temporarily, forgotten about it. Please remind her, and if she still doesn't drop it, drop her. Not the a-hole. Absolutely not the a-hole. To pressure someone into doing something sexually that they don't want to is such an absolute hard no, and she is applying pressure. By purchasing it, she's hoping that you'll feel bad she spent money and just give in. That's not cool. Ask her genuinely if she or any of her girlfriends have ever felt pressured into doing something that they didn't want to. Guarantee that 99% of them will have, and she'll hopefully apologize for her crap behavior. It's fair enough to be curious and to ask to explore, but to guilt pressure someone is absolute bull. Not the a-hole. Frickin' hell, her pressuring you like this and buying the equipment like it's already a done deal is awful. It sounds like you guys need to slow down and talk about boundaries in your relationship. Just because one person is okay with something, that doesn't mean the other person is okay with the same thing. If it's so important to her and it's crossing your boundaries, you're just not compatible. If you want to stay together and work it out, you need to have a long talk about what you like and don't like and where your limits are, and agree to respect those limits. What's her phone number? Okay, let's see what happens in the update. Thank you to everyone that took the time to comment and share advice. It really helped me. Brief summary from the original. My girlfriend tried pressuring me into letting her peg me and we got into a huge fight. Here's the update. We broke up. Nah, JK, she's next to me on the couch bugging me to rub her feet. I guess she hasn't learned anything about consent. The real update is positive, especially for our relationship. A lot has happened. I took advice from the comments to have a conversation about boundaries, consent, and focusing on things we're both comfortable exploring. She agreed it was a good idea. We were really naive and unprepared for all of this. We thought we could figure it out as we went. She asked if I was willing to share the websites I was finding this info so she could read them too. I told her that I posted it on Reddit. Actually, lucky I did, since someone made a TikTok about my post that she saw, and she probably didn't want to see it. The comments were universally against her. She asked me to show her anyway. She read the post and some of the comments. She said she knew that she was wrong, but was a little surprised by how negatively people reacted to her. I asked why she cried, and it was because she was upset I would even joke about breaking up. She wasn't trying to manipulate me by crying. She thought we were just having a conversation. I told her she wasn't listening to me, and how uncomfortable I was. I was trying to find an exit ramp for the conversation, not seriously talking about breaking up. I also apologized because I was wrong to joke like that. She admitted she wasn't sensitive to my boundaries and was just focused on what she wanted. She recognizes that behavior is really toxic and she would think I was an ass, yes that's a pun, if I kept ignoring her boundaries. She also apologized for buying the toy and agreed it was manipulative. One commenter suggested a yes, no, maybe list. This advice has made a world of difference. We found some examples that helped us create our own. We agreed to be honest, no judgment, and not to pressure the other person on anything they put no or maybe on. We agreed the list was just for discussion. It didn't imply consent. We would discuss everything and we're free to change our minds at any time. If you're wondering, I marked pegging as a no for me and she checked yes. She'll not bring it up again unless I changed my response, but I'm glad she was honest. There is still some awkwardness surrounding sex, enjoying it, exploring it, and even talking about it. We're giving each other grace and allowing for mistakes and misunderstandings. There are plenty of things we're both willing to do right now, not to mention just regular weekday sex is pretty great. The rest of the update is about our future, not really related to the original post. When we were having our discussions about sex and communication, we also started talking about our relationship with each other, Jesus, and church. We realized we missed belonging to a church community, but wanted to find one that fits our values, not our parents. We found a nice church. My family would call it Church Light. We've just started going and they're very welcoming and the people are very nice and accepting. One of the reasons we joined was we wanted to be married in a church. And that's right, we're engaged. We were already thinking of marriage, but these last few months we've really solidified our commitment to each other and our future together. She told her parents and they didn't give us their blessing. We were expecting that. Her parents are very traditional. They won't visit us because we live together, and made it clear the last time we visited them they don't approve of us and our views. My fiancé, girlfriend at the time, told her sisters she was on birth control and also said they should get the HPV vaccine. They are adults and can make their own choices, but her parents don't see it that way. That caused a crap storm. We weren't invited to Christmas. We told her parents we'll invite them to the wedding and it's their decision to attend or not. Her siblings are happy for us and said they'll be at the wedding. My parents were happy. They aren't as strict about things, although I can't deny the fact I'm their son, not daughter, plays a part in it. My mum just wants us to have kids so she can be a grandmother. I know my fiancé wanted her mum to be involved in the wedding planning, dress shopping and all that, and for her dad to give her away. She's really disappointed and we're hoping they can change their minds, but we're not expecting them to. We aren't going to have a big wedding since we're paying for it all, but it will be what we want and it's for us, not anyone else. Okay, and that's the end of that one. Gee, it's a shame that things like that, particularly, traditionalist views, get in the way of people having good relationships with their family. Like, come on, your daughter's getting married, a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and she wants you to be there. And the parents are still too stubborn to admit the fact that they're not living in the 1930s anymore. Boggles the mind. Anyway, all in all, a pretty good ending there. A nice, wholesome pegging story for your day. You're welcome. Okay, next story, same subreddit. This one was written by user OKOpinion, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend because she's still friends with the guy she cheated with in her previous relationship? Me, 26, and my ex-girlfriend, 25, were together for about a year. Some weeks ago we were hanging out with some of her friends, not the friend in question. We were playing a little quiz game, and one of the questions that popped up involved cheating. I mentioned that I hate cheaters, and after that, I noticed one of the friends give my ex-girlfriend a look, and also noticed my girlfriend got a bit uncomfortable. It was weird, and got me thinking. The next day, I asked my ex-girlfriend about it. She said that she wasn't going to lie, and admitted that she cheated on her ex. This was a year before she met me. I felt upset about it because she's never mentioned it before, and I asked what happened. She mentioned that one time she got drunk and hooked up with her friend. Let's call him Byron. Byron is a former friend with benefits of hers and they still hang out regularly. I knew that my ex-girlfriend and Byron had a history, and while I didn't like that they hung out, I just dealt with it. I was pretty upset because not only did I find out she was a cheater, but she still hung out with the guy. I told her I needed some time to think, and after 2 days I decided to break up with her. I didn't want to tell her that she can't be friends with Byron, and I knew I couldn't deal with her still being friends with him, so I just removed myself. So, am I the a-hole? Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. Familiarity breeds old habits, meaning there's a good chance you should cheat with them again, even if not with OP. Not the a-hole. I can't see any sane person being okay with that. Not the a-hole. She's a cheater who stayed friends with the person she cheated with. No need to be with someone like that. If this had just been a previous fling, that would be one thing, but with your girl being the cheater and he being the affair partner, no, you did the right thing. Not the a-hole. Yeah, hard to disagree there. On to an update. Since so many people took interest last time, I figured I'd update you all. So about a week after I posted my original post, my ex-girlfriend dropped by my place. She said that she wanted to get back together and that it was silly of us to break up over this. I told her that I'm just not comfortable with her friendship with Byron. She said that her cheating with Byron was a mistake, but that was in the past and she's grown. I told her that it doesn't really look like it. I mean, she goes out drinking with Byron very often, and you two were banging after you and your ex broke up. They were friends with benefits before and after her ex. I told her I'm just not taking a chance to be her next sucker. She then said, "What if I cut off Byron? Can we get back together then?" I was tempted for a second, to be honest. Our relationship seemed great, but I remembered some of the comments I read in my last post, and I asked her, "Have you been effing Byron since we broke up?" I had never seen such a poor poker face. She stumbled her words and said no. I gave her a look like that's BS. She saw this and said, "I mean, we were broken up." I just put my hands up and said nope. I then asked her to leave, and she was really upset. Yep, well there's your answer. She wasn't going to change, no way. Good for OP getting out of there when he did. My family wants me to break up with my girlfriend after how she responded to my brother's prank. Hi Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. I know how the title sounds, but I could honestly use some outside perspective since anyone else I could ask is biased towards the situation. I've been dating my girlfriend, Lola, for about 2 years now, and overall things have been great. My brother Ian has always been pretty weird whenever she comes up or is around. Ian and I are very close, talking to each other daily, but the conversation will usually change gears right as I start talking about anything Lola related. I thought maybe he was jealous of the time I was spending with her, or maybe a little crush on her. Still, whenever we'd get together, he'd make comments about our age gap, poke fun at me for simping, and joke about her sleep disorder. Ian's always enjoyed a good prank, either pranking or being pranked. He loves to laugh, and I genuinely believe that when he goes to prank people, he means it in a way to share the laughter. When he's tried to pull little pranks on Lola though, he does things that he figured out triggers her disorder, like making sudden loud sounds, jumping out to scare her, and one time I caught him before he was going to do the shaving cream sleep bit while she was taking a nap in the guest room. I warned him in more detail that he shouldn't mess with her while she's sleeping, as interrupting her regulated cycles isn't good for her, and at the absolute best, she's the worst kind of cranky when she's woken up. Ian looked like he understood, and I thought that was that. I threw a New Year's Eve party a few days ago and invited Ian and a bunch of mine and Lola's friends. Everyone was having a good time. My watch went off with the alarm that we set up for Lola to take a nap, and she went off with a sleepy smile. I kept partying. A while later we all heard a scream, followed soon after by cussing and something breaking. I panicked as it was from my room where Lola was, and I ran through nearly kicking the door down, to find she shoved someone down and was yelling at them. I looked to see who it was, and saw a spider mask that I unfortunately recognised as Ian's from years ago. I saw him scrambling to get away, but she only stopped when 3 of her friends pushed past me to pull her up and check her before she ultimately passed out in their arms. Ian scrambled off the floor and ripped the mask off, revealing the work she'd managed to do in the time it took us to react. He started bawling, telling me that she was insane and abusive, that he only wanted to make sure that she wasn't going to sleep through the ball drop. At this point, everyone started yelling. Ian looked terrified and kept repeating that she was crazy and that I shouldn't be with someone who could do this to her boyfriend's brother. Some of my guys were yelling that if she did it to him, she could do it to me. All of her friends were screaming about how he should know to leave a sleeping girl alone and how it was creepy. Ian ended up calling our mum to tell him that Lola hurt him, and she's furious. Lola's friends ended up carrying her out against my protests, and my friends were nearly split down the middle. I remember standing there while everyone argued while the ball dropped, my mother calling me for the 10th time, and Lola finally texting me that she needs space to think. Since then, we've lightly texted. She's expressed that she can't shake her fear of what happened, but she still hasn't told me from her side what happened. Ian and my mum are trying to convince me to break up with her and chastising me for not helping or standing up for my brother when he was being assaulted, also demanding an apology for not playing my part as an older brother. Ian has FaceTimed a few other family members, and now my aunt, who paid for both our colleges and the house my mum and brother live in and helped me get my apartment, is taking the 3-hour drive up to make sure her boys are okay, which is stressing me out even more. On one hand, I know family is family and I should do what I can to stand up for the people who helped raise me and become the person I am. On the other hand, Lola is my girlfriend. I adore her. I love her. I feel like I should be there to protect her. I don't want to push her boundaries, but not talking to her is a different kind of hurt. Ian is convinced that he was doing a well-intentioned prank and was wrongfully punished for wanting to make sure everyone was enjoying themselves. I don't know if I believe that, but I've known Ian for 22 years. Growing up, we were inseparable. I don't want to doubt him just because love may be blinding me. How do I approach the situation with Lola? How can I convince my family that Lola isn't a threat? She's honestly the most sweet and caring person. She just can't be woken up, and part of me feels like she was pushed to that point. Honestly, I don't know. The brother was warned, right? And yeah, it is pretty creepy to do that. It sounds like his brother's got some weird infatuation with her. I don't know. Let's look at the comments. You don't actually need any advice because if Lola has even an ounce of sense, she's your ex. Since this seems to have escaped your notice, your brother is either the biggest a-hole or in need of a good diagnosis, or both. I wish Lola all the best in life. May the idiots be far from her and may she never have a bad hair day. You do realise that your brother knew full well the extent of her sleeping impediment, knew she had triggers, and used them against her. Once you have explained to him why he can't do that, and he keeps doing it, how can you defend him and try to act like he didn't have malicious intents? Of course he did. Or he just didn't care about anything other than to see her scared, no matter how it would scare or scar her. He is a jerk through and through. You should already be dumped, really. You found your brother in your girlfriend's room, her fighting him off, and you didn't even stand up for her. A man approaching a sleeping woman with a mask on is not a prank, it's a threat. I once straight up broke a contractor's nose in a fit of absolute terror because he came into my bedroom when I was napping. He should not have been in the house at all, let alone the bedroom, and hovered over me with a COVID mask on. I woke up and immediately began beating at his face because a man with a mask approaching you in your sleep is a frickin' threat. The project manager immediately fired him, and no one even considered for a second that I might be in the wrong because it's common sense to not menace a sleeping woman, and if you decide to do it anyway, then the consequences are completely on you. In the words of the project manager, I'd have been well within my rights to do a hell of a lot more than break his nose. Being a woman and waking up to a masked man is not a joke. It's terrifying. Your brother is a frickin' menace, and he seems to be unnervingly obsessed with your girlfriend. Even if this ends your relationship with her, and honestly I would not be shocked if it did because you're not being supportive of her at all, I think you need to reconsider your beliefs about your brother's mental stability. He doesn't sound like a safe person. Now Opie gives some more comments. More on Opie's family and why he feels he needs to be on their side. After my dad left, everyone on my mum's side came together to help her get back on her feet after she lost her house and was on the brink of losing her kids too. My mum had my sister and me young, and unfortunately she couldn't finish high school, taking care of young twins with my grandmother dying soon after. My aunts and extended family all came together to help raise us, get my mum the help she needed, made sure we had what we needed for school, life, and really saved us from not just homelessness, but worse. I have such high respect for my family because I know what they did for me. My aunt personally tutored me after I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and it's because of her that I made it to graduation, let alone college. I joked that I wanted to be like her when I grow up, and now to know that the same people that I owe my very life now to are upset with a choice I made has made me so incredibly anxious. I freeze up thinking about it like I just froze up in that room, and I don't know what to do. I love her. I know I do. I'm flustered. What makes bro's behaviour even worse? One of her friends from the party just texted me to chew me out for choking up at the party instead of standing up for Lola. A lot of choice words were said, but the thing that stuck out to me was her calling my brother insensitive for not only disturbing her, but using a phobia against her. It just clicked for me that he had a spider mask. Lola has severe arachnophobia. I know this, and I'm racking my brain trying to think if Ian knew that, or if it was bad luck that he decided to pull this stunt with that. What OP is going to do now? Thank you to everyone who has shared their advice and opinions in comments and DMs, even the more blunt and rude ones letting me know that in not acting I was hurting my girlfriend as well. She called me a few minutes ago and I was so happy to hear her voice I'm still crying from getting to. She sounded quiet, not like her usual bubbly self, and she didn't say much other than to ask if I was okay and if we could talk tomorrow. I wanted nothing more than to keep talking to her. I apologised over and over, but she thanked me for apologising and kept changing the subject to where I wanted to meet her tomorrow. We decided on this nice crepe and tea place she likes, one of our first date spots, and then she hung up. I know now that I can't stay impartial. My aunt's going to be at my mum's soon, and I've been pacing my living room thinking of how I'm going to approach this with my family. I don't want to be rude, but I won't let my tone or language stop me from doing what I should have done in the first place. Ian has given a lot of excuses, but none of them make up for the experience he's put her through, and that I let slide for no good reason. After hearing her voice and how down she sounded, I feel ready for war. She might break up with me, and after reading all of your comments, I'm disgusted with my actions, and I'd leave me too. Oh, great to hear that Opie's self-aware at least. It only took a few comments. Let's go to the update. To everyone who has reached out to me with advice on how I can learn from this crap storm, thank you. To everyone that has helped me understand that just because family has done a lot for you, it does not mean you're indebted to them and can't have an opinion or life of my own. Thank you. To everyone that has reached out to me telling me that I'm such an idiot, I suck as a boyfriend, they hope Lola leaves me, they wish she'd beat both of us up. Thank you. This won't be a full update as a lot happened yesterday, and I frankly don't have time to get into everything with police and packing to deal with. In short, while a lot of you advised I wait for Lola to tell me her side before I confront my family, they all came over to my apartment yesterday morning while I was writing out a list of questions for them. I was supposed to go over the night before, but I texted them saying I needed time and if we could meet later today, but they obviously didn't like that and showed up unannounced. The fighting started almost immediately, and I initially was thrown off by them being there, but I matched the energy and started yelling back at them for their predatory and enabling behaviour of Ian, and how I couldn't believe they'd side with him over this, golden rainbow baby aside. My aunt got into my face about disrespect, while my mum cried and brother cussed me out, but I pointed at my computer and yelled back at them that if they genuinely believed Lola was the problem, then they were the victim-blaming idiots that I wanted nothing more to do with. My mum kept crying, but I got my aunt's attention with the computer, and she got close to look at the screen. I was going through comments to write up all the questions, and after a minute she turned back to us, really my brother, and said, "What is this?" I explained Reddit and that I'd posted for help. Ian then stopped comforting Mum and pushed past me to get to the computer, asking what right I had sharing family business on the internet. My aunt stopped him and asked, "Why didn't you tell us you were alone with her? You never told me she was sleeping." To say all hell broke loose would be an understatement. Like a switch, my mum almost immediately stopped loudly crying and looked over at my aunt confused. Ian started shaking his head and reiterating his version of the story, which, listening to it, was infuriatingly off. I'd figured out that not only did he tell Mum and our extended family a version of the story in which Lola was all too violent with him when, quote, he jumped from behind a door to give her a little spook, but he left out the details that put him in any bad light. I started yelling again, calling him a liar, but he started crying and called me a liar who was just trying to lie for my girlfriend. At the sight of my brother crying, my mum pleaded with us to stop, my aunt scrolling more on the screen. It felt like both a minute and forever that we were yelling in each other's faces about how the night went, how I felt he always used his tears to get his way, him yelling at me about how ungrateful I always was, etc. Unfortunately, I forgot where we were and didn't keep the volume down at all, and sometime later there was a knock at the door. I didn't know who it could be. Some dumb part hoped Lola, though I knew it wasn't. It was 2 officers, answering to a noise complaint from one of the neighbours. Feeling stupid, I plainly explained that no one was hurt and we were having a heated argument, but that no one was in danger. I did let them look around and talk to my mum and brother, but my aunt spoke up when it looked like they were just going to give us a warning. Actually, I think it's good that you're here. My nephew has something he'd like to report. She motioned to Ian, whose eyes looked between her and the officers quickly. My aunt still looked as angry when she first arrived, but she was glaring at Ian. You know, hypothetically, if someone touches or hits you without permission or justified reason, that's something you can and should report. Is there anything you want to say? There was silence, eyes moving to everyone around the room. My aunt didn't look encouraging in a report. It hit me that she was calling him out. I stared at him. His eyes were bulging. He looked as panicked as the other night when he was trying to get away from Lola. One of the officers asked if everything was all right, and like clockwork, Ian started bawling his eyes out. My mum asked him what was wrong. I told her that she had to stop babying him. He's been lying to you guys. My aunt asking him again if he had anything to report. You were up in arms against this girl this morning. Where'd all that fire go? Did she hit you or not? It took a while of us pushing him, but he finally admitted to the room that he didn't have anything to report because he didn't feel like she'd be rightly prosecuted. His next story sounded closer to the one I knew, where he admitted to knowing Lola had gone to sleep and wanted to scare her so she'd wake up. I still don't believe his reason why he wanted her up, that he put on a mask. I asked if he knew she had a phobia. He said he knew she found them creepy, and that no, there was no one else in the room with them. He couldn't get any of our friends to agree to the prank, so he did it himself. He said he started making sounds against the wall, the bed was against the wall, and then got close to scream in her face. He said she woke up and surprised him because he thought the stress and panic would cause her to scream or hide, but she went for his throat instead. He described his beating to everyone in the room, some of which I saw had the officers look at each other, then back at him. Then that's when I pushed the door in. The door wasn't locked. I just panicked and didn't think to use the doorknob properly. I just threw my body at the door, and the rest of his story is what I was there for. I'm sure if the police weren't there, I would have hit him. I know I would have. My mum started crying even more when he said she was sleeping, a fact that changed his entire story, and my aunt chewed him out, everyone scolding him for his stupidity and a-hole behaviour, while the officers explained that it sounded like if what he said was true, Lola acted in self-defence, and that not only was what he did juvenile, but one of the officers asked my mum's permission to question him more as his behaviour was concerning, and they wanted to make sure he wasn't a danger to himself or others. My aunt and I told the cops he was 22 at the same time, an adult, and they didn't need her permission. He looks a lot younger than he is. Upon hearing his age, one of the officers sat down with him and asked him to talk through his thought process, and the other officer explained to my mum and aunt that Lola could press charges given Ian's story. My aunt still looked ticked, while my mum cried about being confused and over her baby. My mum literally looked at me and said she didn't understand how her baby could do this. I already knew I was deep in the bullcrap of this family, but I realised that I couldn't grow on the earth that poisoned me, and I needed to get away if I was actually going to get better and stay better. My mum kept fussing with my aunt and another uncle on the phone, crying over the drama, while I texted a friend of mine who lives across the city if I could stay with him. I was feeling overwhelmed with all of them and didn't want to be within a few minutes of the source of the problem. I also wanted to give myself space to think and understand with a clear head. I'm typing this between breaks of me packing. My aunt saw me in my room doing this, but she didn't stop me. She only asked me if I'd spoken to Lola about this, and I told her I haven't yet, but I had plans to later on. She told me she was sorry for believing my brother without listening to any other account, and that she hopes Lola is okay. So then, it was just me in the apartment. The cops left after taking a statement from my brother and I. My mum left with my brother, still crying, my brother calling me an a-hole, the world's worst brother, and my aunt gave me a hug, apologising again for how she and her sister acted, and told me that I don't owe her anything, but that she'd like to know that Lola's okay. With everyone gone, I went to my friend's house, and I'll be there until further notice. He couldn't make it to the party, but he heard about it from multiple people. As far as Lola, yes, I did meet with her yesterday. As excited as I was to see her, I know that most of you were telling me she was going to break up with me, so I'd been preparing for that. Whether I ended up single or not, I wanted to make sure she was okay above all. I know I don't deserve her as a girlfriend, and I'd much rather she not be with me if it meant she was safe. She brought a friend with her and we all sat and talked. I showed them both the Reddit post, and Lola had asked that I not share any more information about her until she feels ready herself. She's on Reddit for gaming and generally scrolling fairly often, and let me know that if she came across this story without me having told her, she would have been ticked. She did, however, read a lot of the commenters worried about her and wanted me to express to you all that while upset, hurt, and mixed up with emotions, she is overall okay. She doesn't like that I posted about her without at least giving her a heads up, but after I offered to take the post down, she only asked that I give her time and to leave her personal life, and opinions out of anything beyond what I've already said here until she says otherwise. In short, she did break up with me, and when I told her about the police telling us that she could press charges, her friend laughed and told me that they were more than aware. She thanks everyone for their concern and told me she really hopes we both learn from this. This section was approved by her. So yeah, unless I'm forgetting something, that's all I have and can give right now. My mum has been calling and texting me, telling me that this whole ordeal has made Ian and her a wreck, and she can't believe I'd let a girl do this to us. I blocked my brother right after he left my apartment, and I just blocked her. My aunt has let me know that she'll talk to her, but I don't know how that's going to go. I understand that it isn't what everyone wants, but none of this is anything I want either. To everyone who has nothing but bad things to say about me, I get it, I'm an a-hole. I appreciate any and all advice I've been given. I'm going to be taking a break from not only the BS in my life, but this Reddit stuff too. I know I have a lot of growing to do, and I can't do that in this environment. Thank you again to everyone. Okie dokie folks, and that's the end of that one. Wow, bit of an epic, but yeah, lessons learned all around I think. It baffles me how the mum is kinda still on the brother's side, like just in denial 100%. I think a big thing to take away from this story is that, yeah, never believe one until you've heard the other side. Makes you think how many of our perceptions of other people are just so skewed because of what someone else has said. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that down below. My girlfriend says I need to get rid of my dead wife's stuff or she's leaving. I first got married at the age of 18 to my girlfriend I'd had since age 15. We enjoyed 6 years of marriage together before she died in a motorcycle accident, leaving me broken and severely depressed for years. A bit over 1 year ago, 4 years after my wife's passing, I met my current girlfriend at a work event and we really hit it off. I decided that it was time for me to start looking for a serious partner again and that my wife would have wanted me to be happy. My current girlfriend and I became more serious over time and we moved in together 2 weeks ago. I've talked with her extensively about my deceased wife and the mental health issues it brought to me, and she's been nothing but supportive and loving. The problems began after we moved in together. I have a small chest that I used to keep under my bed that has a few things that belonged to my deceased wife, along with some photos of the two of us. During the moving process, my girlfriend noticed the chest and asked about it, so I explained what it was and showed her the contents. I didn't really expect it to be a big deal, but since I showed her, things have never been worse for us. She sat me down that night and explained that because I still had the chest and wanted to keep it, it was indication to her that I hadn't moved on from my deceased wife and that she doesn't think she can continue the relationship unless I get rid of it. I was pretty shocked at this and told her that I needed some time to think about it. Well, it's been 2 weeks now and I still don't know what to do. My current girlfriend and I have had no major problems up until this point, and she's asking me daily when I plan to get rid of it and says she can't live in the same space as the chest. I really don't want to get rid of it, but I want to continue my relationship with her as well. What can I say to get her to understand? Or am I being crazy by keeping those things for years? Let's look at the comments. Not everyone can date someone whose partner has passed away. They have to understand, or at least navigate it, so that they realize they're not in competition with the one who has passed. It's not the easiest thing, and not everyone is capable of handling. There should be respect for the person and the relationship that came before them. Pictures and mementos are memories that don't need to be erased. Now, if they were all over the house and there was no space or little space for her, that would be a different story. Of course, there are times when the partner of the deceased does not make room in their life for someone new, but that doesn't sound like the case here at all. Get rid of the girlfriend. But right now, immediately, without telling her, give the chest to a trusted family member or put it in storage. Do this so she doesn't accidentally ruin it. I am married to a man that lost his first wife when she was 29 and he was 30. They were also high school sweethearts. He has her stuff from high school, her wedding ring, and has her pictures saved on a hard drive. She was a huge part of his life, and I'm totally okay that he is keeping memories of her locked away. Sorry OP, but I think this girlfriend has bad insecurity issues and is jealous of your deceased wife. I also agreed to put the chest somewhere that she won't have access to it. Yeah, some pretty good advice. And yeah, there's definitely some issues with insecurity here. Let's go to an update. Wow, I did not expect that amount of feedback at all on the post. Sorry I haven't responded to many comments. It was a bit overwhelming to wake up to thousands of them, but I wanted to provide some more information and an update about how everything went down. Some people were wondering how often I look at the chest and talk about my late wife. I spend prolonged time with the chest and its contents usually twice a year, on our anniversary date and her death date, so I'm not constantly opening it and having it out and around and stuff. I feel as though I find the most comfort just knowing that it's nearby, strangely enough, which is why I wanted to keep it in the house. Most of the conversations about my previous marriage have been prompted by my girlfriend, not me. I can talk about it pretty openly when asked about my late wife, but I seldom bring her up on my own in conversation. She used to be all I ever talked about, and it was annoying and uncomfortable for people in my life. Looking back on a lot of our conversations, my girlfriend would frequently ask questions, trying to gauge if I was still mourning or if I was happy again. Now with the chest incident, that makes sense to me that it has been an unvoiced insecurity for a while. At the time, I suppose I just thought she was asking if I was depressed still, but I see now she was trying to ask if I was over my late wife. When my girlfriend asked me to get rid of the chest, she did in fact mean dispose of it. I didn't go into great detail about the conversation we had when she sat me down, but I proposed keeping it more tucked away, not in our bedroom, or at another person's home, and she continued to say I was still hanging on and not ready for a relationship in her eyes, and keeping it somewhere else didn't change that. I'm definitely not getting rid of the chest, and by that I mean disposing of it, and it's been locked in my car the past couple days while I've been dealing with this. I got some really good advice from you guys and tried to have an open, honest conversation with her today, asking her why the chest was so significant as to give me an ultimatum and why she felt like I had to get rid of it to continue growing our relationship. She said the entire relationship we've had, she's always felt like she had to match up to the standards of my late wife, or be even better so that I would stay with her, and that me still having the chest was the confirmation that she will always be lesser than. If I got rid of the chest, it would be confirmation that I was ready to give my whole heart to her. This broke my heart, honestly, and I couldn't believe she never told me she was feeling this way and that I didn't see it. It also made me feel confused because I've been trying to show her the best I can that I can give her my heart in other ways. Why do I need to dump these precious memories to do that? I told her that the relationship with my late wife and my relationship with her are entirely independent of one another, and that I was focused on building trust and love with her, not trying to replace my late wife or compare her by any means. I told her that I couldn't dispose of the chest because it meant a lot to me sentimentally, but that I wasn't keeping it to hang on or cling to my late wife. I just felt as though it was an important part of my history, and I wanted to honour her memory. Some of the trinkets in the chest were from when we were 16 years old, going to high school dances and learning how to drive together. I couldn't simply trash those. I reassured her that I loved her for exactly who she was, not the position she held in my life or how similar she was to my late wife. I told her that I could see us building a life together and that I was focused on our future, not my past. I told her that there is absolutely no competition and that while I was hurt by the ultimatum, I was ready to move past this and move the chest to storage somewhere else. It wasn't enough for her. I don't know what else I needed to say or do to communicate my love and dedication, but she was dead set on me getting rid of the chest or her leaving. I told her a final time that there was not an ounce of a chance I was getting rid of it. Radio silence. Then she gets a bag of her stuff, hops in her car and drives off, ignoring me when I asked what was going on. After calling her multiple times for a few hours, I learned she's staying with a friend, who she called in the car I guess, so she originally just drove off not knowing where she was going, and making arrangements to move out next week. I'm still in shock, but I mostly feel confused and hollow. Maybe I truly wasn't ready for a relationship. Maybe she's just crazy. Maybe a bit of both. Okay, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, pretty sad ending there. I mean, it could be a blessing in disguise for OP, knowing that this relationship was never going to work in the long term anyway. And like that comment before said, only certain people can date people who have already lost a wife or a husband. And I totally 100% stick by OP's reluctance to, erase memories, so to speak. Like, what's the point? Those memories are what shaped you as a human today. Like, OP's girlfriend wouldn't love him for who he is now if it wasn't for the growth that he made when he was with his ex. I don't know, this might be one of those things where she looks back on it in the future and really regrets what she did. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, we're jumping over to relationship advice. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, My Fiancé Actively Chooses His Mum Over Me. My fiancé and I started seeing each other 2.5 years ago. We met in college and it immediately clicked, but we stayed closest friends for an entire year before starting to date. After a couple of weeks of regular talking, he asked me to join him and his mum for a coffee, since we coincidentally met in a store. I went with them and she knew a lot about me up front. I didn't think much of it since I also told my mum about meeting someone great and described a few details. It was then that I realised that he still lived with his mum, being 24 at the time. Still, not a big deal since we all didn't make much or even any money during college. Only after we started seeing each other officially, I noticed that he has a strangely close relationship with his mum. He jokingly said a couple of times that he would always choose her over me, but I can see myself as a guest in their home. Then he almost always took his mum to the places we discovered together to show her how cool it is, and we have very little us-exclusive places. A few months ago, I had major troubles in my shared flat and needed to move out rather quickly. He then offered me to move in with them, which I gladly took since my family lives too far away to still continue my daily routine. I never had a real close relationship to neither my dad nor my mum. Therefore, I tried to be extra understanding and careful about that and tried to tolerate as much as possible, since I don't really know how a healthy parental relationship should look like. But there were a few things that were just too much. They have their ritual on going out for lunch and coffee every Saturday, and I was always welcome to join them. Once I was sick and he mentioned that it's so cool to have an OG day. I was hurt and even told him before they left, and he shrugged it off by saying he was joking. His mum added, "Can I get hugs and kisses from you, sweetheart? I miss this since I don't get them since your fiancé moved in with us," while I was standing right next to them. A few weeks ago, he encouraged me to start an OnlyFans account together since it would help us build our future. I asked him if it was to finance the wedding, but he said that it wasn't only for that, but also for his mum to go to university again just for fun, just because she feels like entering a course out of curiosity, which cost a crap ton of money. Not to forget about the Birkin bag that he wants to buy her from the money we make by selling mostly my body. This would be a rare occasion where we would be intimate since he doesn't want to have sex while his mum is at home, so we basically wait like teenagers for her to go out with friends. I get more and more frustrated. Last week I received an offer for a scholarship for my next education, which is going to be the most expensive one so far. The conditions are that I sign up for the 5 following years after graduation to work wherever they need me within the country I live in. If I manage to complete this, I get 80% of the paid tuition fees back. This would be when I'm 29 and my fiancé 33. After telling him if he'd be willing to move out of the city to the countryside, he quickly said that I can find my own place and he'll stay with his mum in the city. And today, my possible final straw happened. We both had a rough year and planned on going on vacation together. It has never been in the picture that we take her with us. She came into our room and asked if we planned on taking the car to our destination or go by train. He was stumbling around with his words and best he came up with was, "We plan on taking the train, but if you want to come with us, I'll drive you, of course." His mum understood that I was upset and went for a walk with me alone and apologised for the mess she created. She meant well by raising him as the cool parent and trying to prevent him from being emotionally scarred. She then admitted that he is way too attached to her and is amazed how I still keep up with their crap. She then told me that she is softly trying to chuck him out since she is still paying for most of his living expenses and that she wants to enjoy her recent retirement. She also told me that she stopped the extensive hugs and kisses back then after he reached a certain height where he dug his head into her breast, and it was the moment she realised she had to ease things out. I'm actually still grossed out by certain details of his mum and my convo, and fuming about the fact that she's now officially invited to join our planned city trip. Today, I'm heavily questioning if I want him to be my future husband, how I can help him start his own life, our life, if it's worth the fight, and if someone has similar experiences, and how it resolved. Thanks, from an only child out of a cold, more distant family structure. Yeah, I grew up in a pretty close, tight-knit family, and that is still pretty weird to me. Let's go to the comments. It is definitely a massive red flag that he would consider doing an OnlyFans with you to fund hobbies and luxury items for his mum. Run, don't walk. I'm actually dating a guy who would be exactly like your fiancé if the story stopped before the OnlyFans crap. And the only reason this ever worked is that in cosmic good luck, his mum met a guy almost the same time he met me, so they were both ready to transition to a more reasonable level of relationship. But even so, there's so much baggage, it has me second thinking some things sometimes when one of them decides the balance is off. You are several steps beyond that and more. Yuck. OP replies, the OnlyFans story also upsets me since he'd be willing to sell my body in order to give his mum something. To your situation, that's good to hear, that they had no trouble to transition. My fiancé's mum is single since she divorced his dad in 2010 in order to take care of her child and not risk anyone mistreating him. It's pretty much a lost cause in that regard. Anyways, thank you for your take on this and good luck with your partner. Are you freaking kidding me? He made you start an OnlyFans so he can buy a freaking handbag for his mother? Open your eyes, this guy is using you and his relationship with his mother will always come first. Go, take the scholarship, and make a life for yourself, and for frick's sake, shut down the OnlyFans. Let him make vids with his mother if she's the most important woman in his life. Well, it sounds like you already have an out with that scholarship, so just leave the guy who wants to be with his mum. On to an update. After reading all of your advice and talking to my therapist about how to approach it in the best way possible, I made the decision to sit them both down at a table and express how their behaviour is inflicting me, my mental health, and everyday life. Right after finishing my monologue, his mum tried to tell me how this form of living is actually normal from an evolutionary biological perspective and tried to compare us three to wolves and their packs, but didn't bother to mention apes once. Then she went on how we're doing good economical and environmental work by sharing a flat, and that we could make this work somehow. She genuinely wanted to save the situation, but honestly made everything worse by that. They both know that the scholarship I previously mentioned was to become a doctor. Therefore, I just sat there and grinned as I said to her face how enlightened I'll leave this apartment, knowing I'm now one step closer to learn about the real biological evolution and how these living conditions are nothing but vile and mental. My fiancé wanted to sit down with me alone after and was willing to put everything behind in order to keep me. I know this sounds exactly what I originally wanted, but I just know, from being his best friend, girlfriend, and now fiancé, that he's not ready for that right now. I left him the business card of a highly recommended trauma therapist that is specialised on CPTSD patients that experience trauma within their family. I offered to drive him there and pick him up in order to be able to decompress in silence in the car, but he'll have to do therapy all by himself. He immediately agreed since he saw how serious the situation was and called the therapist right away. He'll start to go to trauma therapy from next week on. We didn't inform his mum on that since the situation is already messed up enough. Still, I made up my mind that this is not a life worth living. I'll take the scholarship and go to med school. My fiancé and I called it quits today and have broken off the engagement officially. We still love each other, but agreed on that it's best to see what time and therapy can change. It's a 4-hour drive and my fiancé will always be welcome. Currently not as my romantic partner, but hopefully as my dearest friend. Thanks to all the Redditors that took their time and managed to get me back on track. From the general vibe in the previous comment section, I feel like this can be considered a happy ending. Okay guys, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. Do you think Opie made the right decision in leaving? I do, but there could be an argument for her staying and working on the relationship maybe. But yeah, let me know and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, we're jumping over to True Off My Chest. This one was written by user Beneficial Pizza and it's titled, My Baby Sister Called Me Dad. I, male 31, was 20 when my sister, 11, was born. Our mum wasn't in a good place physically or mentally, and her father was a druggie, so I took her in and have been raising her ever since. She's legally mine. In certain ways, I've always seen her as a daughter. I feel as though the love I have for her would be the love a father has for his kids. I mean, I watched her grow up, and was there for every single milestone. Most would consider me to be my sister's dad, but my sister grew up with the knowledge I am her big brother, and the reason I take care of her is our mum and her dad can't take care of her the way they should. She got more information as she got older. We are both sick. My sister has chronic asthma, and when sick, her asthma is worse. At like 3 a.m, I heard her wheezing and coughing in her sleep and got her nebulizer. To give her a breathing treatment, I had to wake her up to take it. She was half asleep, and when she finished, I told her she could go back to sleep. She mumbled, "Okay," then as I was leaving her room, she said, "Thank you, Dad." It was quiet, but I heard it. I had a good, happy and emotional cry, and it's getting me teary-eyed just thinking about it. Oh, that's sweet. When I read the title, I wasn't sure if he was maybe conflicted about it, but sounds like it's something he's proud of. Let's go to the comments. You may not be her biological father, but you are certainly her dad. Own it. You've earned it. Good work, dude. You've long since earned the title. Glad the metaphorical paperwork is done and it's official. Glad you two have each other. A real man. A decent, wonderful man with integrity. I'm so happy that there are men like you out there. Thank you for making this post. It made me happy. Okay, on to an update. For those who didn't see my original post, I've been raising my sister since she was a baby. Well, she's always called me by my first name, and has known I'm her brother. Well, about a week ago, while half asleep, she called me Dad. After that, she went back to calling me by my first name, so I decided to take up advice from some comments. I told her that when half asleep, she could call me Dad. She looked panicky and apologized. I told her she had no reason to apologize, and I actually wanted to talk to her about it. I let her know if she wanted to, she could call me Dad, but she never had to feel forced to call me Dad. Like I said, only if she wanted to. She started to cry, and she let me know there'd been so many times she wanted to call me Dad, and almost had, but stopped herself because I was her brother. I told her we both knew I'd never be just her brother. Plus, a dad isn't always someone who is biologically your father, but the person who raised you. After that, we both cried, but the past few days, I've been Dad. It's been honestly amazing to hear. Like I said in my original post, I've always felt like a dad to her instead of a brother. Okay guys, and a great one to end on there. We probably don't get enough feel-good stories here, so it's always good when one comes out. Can this marriage be saved? I am at a crossroads with regard to my marriage. There was infidelity on his part several years ago, shortly after the birth of our child. He claims there was nothing physical, just an emotional affair. I was devastated. With the work of a therapist and a focus on activities I enjoy, running, volunteering, reconnecting with friends, I was able to build my self-confidence back up. Although our relationship has never recovered to the way things were before the affair, things have been peaceful in our house. But recently I've realized that I want more from our marriage. Our child is older and not as dependent on me. I'm stable in my career. We are debt-free. I feel healthier and more in control of my life than I ever have. My libido has come back stronger than ever. I have a zest for life that I haven't had since before the affair. But my husband seems content with the way things are. He doesn't put any effort into spending time with me. There is no intimacy on his part. He does not initiate sex. To be honest, he does not seem very interested in me. I've talked to him about my needs and how I'm feeling. He claims he has low testosterone but won't do anything about it. He doesn't want to go to any sort of counselling. He stated that he doesn't feel the urgency to fix anything in our marriage. At this point in our marriage, we should be enjoying our new freedom. No debt, no small children. I want to travel, go on adventures and have sex. Lots of it. He's just not interested. Is there hope? Should I keep trying to talk to him? We have weekly talks to no avail. He's just getting annoyed at this point. What have others done to successfully turn a situation like this around? Okay, jumping straight into a problem that seems all too often these days. Let's go to some comments. Well, seems like the cheating isn't the issue, but the lack of effort is. Might have to let this marriage go. It's one thing if he was putting in effort, it's different if he's not. Dear OP, I don't think you can take someone else's scenario and apply it to yours, but here are some things to think about. I do think there is potential to save this marriage and, in turn, a family. Where are you today? It seems that you both love each other, but right now only one of you is willing and or able to do the work that maintains a marriage. It does take two, but it seems his part, for right now, may be being willing to let you work at it. He may be unable to forgive himself and reconcile who he is and his value as a husband and father. I think it might be prudent for you to go to marriage counselling. This may not be the relationship you want, and it may never reach that status, but it may help you get the encouragement to count your blessings. I have a phone number I can pass along to help you get to a counsellor, and for some resources. Let me know. I suggest you read the book by Aaron and Greg Smalley, Ready to Wed. This may help you start over with a new perspective. It sounds like you're a kind and forgiving person, but that you want the best for both you and your husband and your children. This is a great plus, but you don't have to be a doormat. Just be honest and open. It seems to me that you have a good start here, and an intact, if not totally happy, family unit. If you leave, you'll be fishing for a new relationship and starting from scratch with the same odds of success you have at the present. But you will also be dealing with the remains of your present relationship. This would be extra baggage to deal with. My vote is to go for it right where you are and start with yourself. I will be praying for you, your husband and your children. God bless you and your precious family. Any marriage can be saved. It sounds like you're in a better place emotionally. That's good. I know firsthand what betrayal in a marriage can do to a partnership. I sought counselling for myself and had a difficult time getting him to get help for himself. It wasn't until I prayed for guidance, grace and forgiveness that I began to change to the point where I wasn't consumed with what he wanted or didn't want. I wasn't even sure that our marriage could come back from the grave, so to speak. Eventually, through prayer, strength, many tears, enduring faith, as I changed, things began to change in my heart. He eventually began to see the transformation in me, which actually convinced him of his role and lack of accountability with his relationship with God, himself and me. Over a year later, we have a marriage I could not have even prayed for. He's a different man, and I, a different woman. We can even discuss the betrayal and dissect our role in the failure. In the end, we both know that without our faith, we wouldn't have been able to resolve our own inner conflicts, nor have enough grace to forgive the wrong. I can offer some materials that helped me and helped him. Let me know and I'll share. Peace. Yeah, some pretty good advice there from some genuinely kind comments. I mean, it's pretty clear to say that this side of Reddit is, let's say, less secular than the areas we're usually going through. Alright, Opie answers some questions. Did husband take responsibility for his cheating? He accepted responsibility for the hurt he caused me, but refused marriage counselling. He didn't think it was that big of a deal because there was no physical aspect. I chose to forgive and continue on with the marriage for several different reasons. Kid, finances, fear. You are right. Focusing on myself after the affair has allowed me to think about what I want and need in a relationship. This is currently not it. But I don't want to just throw in the towel without trying everything I can. Hence I'm here on Reddit seeking advice. Sounds like he never came back from the affair. Who was it with? We wouldn't tell me, so I wouldn't know. Then all of this is very much unresolved. No accountability, and he hasn't even told you who it was. How do you know it was only emotional? I had no proof it was physical. We had a life and a young child. He apologized. Did I/do I still have my suspicions? Yep. But at the end of the day, I can't make him tell the truth. I can only make my own decisions, and I decided to accept his story. Was it a mistake? Probably. But hindsight and all that. And later that night, thanks everyone for your input. We had another convo tonight. Same old same. Can't commit to doing the work because he doesn't know how much work it's going to entail. What about our kid? We're great co-parents. Blah blah blah. All sprinkled in between, I do love you. I know it's time for me to stop chasing and just walk away. It's so damn scary though. Yeah, exactly. Lots of comments saying to walk away and leave the relationship behind, but it's easier said than done. Especially when you throw in a young kid and things like that. Okay, on to an update. Following up on my last post, it's on my profile page if you want background. I had a final talk with my husband. Here is a synopsis of our conversation. 1. I told him that I refuse to live like this any longer. I want a husband, not a roommate and co-parent. His response is that we owe it to our son to provide him with a 2-parent household. 2. I told him that we owe it to our son to be happy so that he knows what happiness looks like. I don't want to normalize this environment for him. Husband doesn't understand why he can be content to live like this but I can't. Accused me of being insecure because I, quote, can't live without a man. 3. Husband says that we should continue to carry on like this for our son, and maybe the relationship will improve with time. I responded by saying that our marriage has never really been good, and I don't want to go back to that. I want to try to work towards something better. 4. He said that he believes that I like being miserable and asked me several times, "Why can't you just be happy?" 5. Husband then admits to me that he never wanted to get married and have kids, but that's what normal people do, so he went along with it. This was an aha moment for me, as I always knew something wasn't right about our marriage. I was never settled and always had to fight for my needs. 6. I asked husband to move out of the house so we can start separation. He refused, saying that it would be too hard on him. I obviously can't leave because I'm the main caregiver of our son, and I'm not willing to uproot him. When we separate, I'd like my son to continue to have this home as his primary residence. 7. After the aha moment came an intense wave of sadness. I'm now questioning everything in my life. I started to cry and he got frustrated and left. 8. We have not said anything to each other since. We briefly will discuss household duties and childcare, but that's it. Husband has been helpful around the house, with son's school activities and schedule, very attentive to our son, polite and not nasty, planning family game nights and things we can do together as a family. Most of the things I begged him to do for the last 16 years. This is just confusing and infuriating. Why now when I have one foot out the door? I really don't know what to do at this point. He doesn't want me to leave, but won't stop me if I do. He won't leave, but has stated verbatim that he refuses to work on our marriage. I'm totally confused. I'm seeking advice. Please note, just leave is not an option for me. I'd have to leave my son, and that is not an option. One comment says, "You have to actively make changes. Leave with your son." Opie says, "He won't let me leave with my son and I can't just do it. That would be kidnapping. I would make my situation so much worse than it is. I could move out on my own, then work on a custody arrangement with husband, but my son would be devastated. He would not want to leave the home he's lived in his entire life. I'm not sure I can do that to him right now. I was working with a realtor to find a home, but husband is making it difficult." Yeah, well, this is all of a sudden getting more and more complicated. Okay, Opie makes a separate post on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. Husband and I no longer have any sort of relationship. We are co-parents and roommates. Husband refuses to work on marriage but doesn't want me to leave as he thinks our child will suffer. You can read my previous post on the current state of my marriage on my Reddit page. Husband and I both have good paying jobs that allow us to pay all monthly bills, save for retirement and emergencies, and still have a bit left over for fun. We have a household budget tracker that shows that we pay roughly equally into household expenses, even though he makes more than me. I recently got a second part-time job that will allow me to invest in myself, new professional headshots, going on vacations by myself, with friends, therapy, etc. I do not want this income to be included in our household income. Husband thinks my new income should count towards our household income, and as such, I should be paying more proportionately into household expenses. As far as I'm concerned, since I no longer have to put any effort into our failed marriage, I can instead start to focus on working on myself. This includes spending money from my part-time job on things and experiences that will make me happy. My question is, am I the a-hole for not using the money I earn from my part-time job towards our household? Edit to add, my second job will be done from home in the evenings. There is no need for my husband to help me with childcare and additional tasks around the house. I mean, definitely not the a-hole, right? Opie's doing extra work on her own volition to do things that she wants to do. Let's go to the comments. If he suddenly got a bonus or raise, would he include that money in the household budget? Probably not. Opie replies, "I suspect you're right. I know he's received bonuses from his job, but I've never seen a dime. He's purposefully kept our finances separate and kept me in the dark about what he earns and spends. He, of course, has always had access to all of my financial info." More information on the son and responsibilities. There are no childcare costs. Our child is a teenager. I edited my post to state this. My part-time job will not require him to do anything extra. It's all online and can be done in the evenings after our kid's in bed. My husband travelled for work 2 to 3 weeks per month for most of our marriage. He also travels several weeks per year with friends. I never asked for compensation for basically raising our child and maintaining our household by myself. The thought of compensating him for the situation his choices have put us in makes me feel away. Don't mean to take it out on you. their relationship now. He stated he is committed to reviewing our options for the marriage after our child is out of the house. For now, he thinks we should both continue to live together and co-parent. We are low conflict, just not affectionate with each other. I can't speak for him, but I have zero desire or energy to even think about finding someone else. After 16 years of marriage, I'm questioning everything in my life. On to an update for that one. I've contacted a divorce lawyer just to see what my options are. He was so helpful. We'd approach it as an uncontested divorce, splitting everything 50-50. I'm going to reach out to a few more for pricing. My heart breaks at the thought of not seeing my child every day. We have a very good relationship and I'm the person he talks to about stuff, but I don't want him to think that this is healthy for me. It's not. I'm constantly questioning my worth and what I did wrong. I've also reached out to a few therapists. As far as my income from my part-time job is concerned, I'm going to use it on me. I told him that if he gets a part-time job, he can use the money however he wants. He's not happy, but I can't concern myself with his happiness anymore. Thank you all for your honest feedback. Yeah, I reckon that's the right way to go about things. And how's the gall of the husband to be unhappy about the fact that she's spending her part-time money on her? Like, what a selfish prick. Okay, final update, 15.5 months from the original post. Hi everyone, it's been a while since I've posted in this community, over a year, but wanted to give you an update since you were all kind enough to offer advice on my earlier posts. What a difference a year can make. If you've read my previous posts, you'll know that I was in a really crappy situation this time last year. My marriage had ended years ago, and I was in the throes of grieving it. I contemplated suicide, but thank goodness I was able to talk myself out of it. Since then, I've separated from my husband, purchased a house, got a new job, ran a marathon, met a new man, and travelled quite a bit. It's been a wild and busy year. I won't get into all of the details of the adventures I've had, but if you'd like to know more, just message me. Now that I've slowed down, I'm sitting here on the eve of Thanksgiving reflecting on the year. A few of my thoughts. 1. They say marriage is hard and divorce is hard, and to choose you're hard. Divorce is definitely much harder, and it's something I would not celebrate unless the person is in danger. 2. There are times where I wonder if I did the right thing, not because I miss my ex, but because I was safer married. It's less scary facing the devil you know than the devil you don't know. Ultimately, I know I did the right thing. One cannot live with constant disrespect from their spouse and expect to be well mentally, but I will always wonder if I could have held out a bit longer, at least until our child was in college and out of the house. 3. There really is no perfect person out there waiting for you to find them. There are a lot of imperfect people who are either doing the work or not. I constantly check in with myself to ensure I'm one of the ones doing the work. 4. Unfortunately, there are more folks not doing the work. I get it, it's hard and painful. It's slow going and takes an incredible amount of strength. Strength to really look at your own issues. Strength to leave relationships that do not work for you, regardless of who is at fault. And strength to be alone. 5. We always want the story to be a victim-villain scenario, but the reality is, in most cases, it's not. Don't get me wrong, there are times when someone clearly is a victim, but barring abuse, most of the time we're so blinded by our ego that we fail to see the role we play in the demise of our relationships. My ex is not a bad person, he just wasn't the person for me. In my haste to get married and have kids, I ignored this very glaring fact, and in my haste to get over my separation, I ignored that with the new man I got involved with 4 months after the separation was formalized. 6. Which brings me to the present. The new relationship I was in recently ended in a similar way that my marriage ended. They say that the universe will keep sending you the same lesson until you learn it. More truer words have not been spoken. At least I can recognize this now. And when you know better, you can do better. FYI, it's not the universe. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I went right back to what I know. 7. And finally, the one thing I've learned to notice in my life are the constants. My health, my incredible family, the amazing girlfriends that have stood by me, and my own kick-ass attitude. I know I will always take care of me, and that is so comforting. Recently, one of my BFFs confided in me that she's thinking about divorcing her husband. She explained the situation to me, and then asked me what she should do. I gave her the most honest answer I've ever given anyone in my life. I don't know. I'm not her, and I cannot possibly understand the situation she's in. but I did promise her that whatever decision she made would be the right one for her and that I would support her 110%. For anyone that's contemplating a major life change, please know that you really do know what's best for you. Please trust yourself to make the decisions you need to make, knowing that you will be there to take care of yourself. I wish you all the adventures, self-love, and friendship that your heart can handle. Happy holidays, and thanks. Okie dokie, and we've reached the end there. A great conclusion by OP in the end there, and really well written. I think she made some really good points about, the fact that there's never a victim-villain scenario. It's never black and white in these kind of cases. There's so much grey area, and we find ourselves lost in, like what Opie said, our egos, and we can't really see the error of our ways a lot of the time. I'm sure Opie probably went through similar confusion, typing out a post from her perspective, having everyone on the internet, including myself, completely take her side and not even consider the other one. Not to mention the amount of assumptions being made and, the quote-unquote quick fixes that everyone's ready to spew forth. But yeah, the reality is, we don't know what's best for them. I don't know, you don't know. Hell, often they don't know. But it's situations like this where you learn, and you learn pretty quickly, I'd say. You learn your worth, and you learn, ultimately, what you want in life. Anyway, all this to say, don't take it from me, take it from someone who's lived it. And trust your heart. Okay, enough yapping, let's move on. Okay, jumping over real quick to the Am I Wrong subreddit. This one was written by user Bubbly Technology, and it's titled, I told my friend, that fake chest didn't keep your man home now, did it? I have a friend, I'll call her Tiffany. The backstory on this girl is kind of funny because she used to be my middle school and 9th grade bully, but we ended up close friends. And though we became close, that hasn't stopped her from being snarky over the years, but I overlooked it because I figured that's just her personality. I did up until now because in my opinion she crossed the line. Tiffany likes to brag. Her husband and her have been together since high school. She's also a real estate agent working at a high-end realty company. She makes pretty good money. She overall has a nice lifestyle, no hate there. But lately this girl's been having it out for me, so me and a couple of girlfriends had a get-together at her place, but she wouldn't stop targeting me. It's not verbatim, but this is what she said. So, what's the deal with y'all? Why hasn't he married you? It's been years, girl. Oh, I know, he probably won't marry you because you're kind of flat. She said for years my body is why my boyfriend won't marry me. She's gotten her entire body done, and now that she has a nice body, she's shaming me. She used to be skinny too, ironically enough. So I clapped back and said, those fake tits didn't keep your man home now, did they? Because her husband has a history of cheating. And they called me a B and kicked me out. Her poking at me, I guess, brought back some resentment from the old days of her bullying me, so I think it snapped. It was really hurtful to my self-esteem, to be honest. Was I wrong? Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole, but homegirl, she's still bullying you. More than likely she bullies everyone around her. It creates a sort of need for people to make her like them. Think Regina George. Your response was perfect and spot on, but you upset the main girl. All the other girls jump to her defense to get on her good side and show what a good friend they are. Find a new friend group. They all suck. She can dish it out but can't take it. F her. Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that comeback myself. How about you guys? Let's go to the update. Here's the update from my last post in case some of you didn't get to see it and were curious. They ended up texting me, apologising, but reading these comments really made me realise they're full of crap and not my friends. I'll take the advice to be around better and more uplifting girlfriends. Most of our hangouts were superficial sessions where we tear each other down and gossip when we should be having fun. And if not that, then we have to be her therapist as she dumps all of her baggage onto us, laughing my effing ass off. A lot of you asked why we were even friends to begin with. To that I'd answer, I guess I just fell into her bees. In 10th grade we started being in a lot more classes and sports together, so she befriended me, and we bonded over both being Italian. The rest was history and more bullcrap, lol, but I know, it was dumb. Funnily enough, even her own family can't stand her. I'm close to her sisters who are polar opposites to her, and even they said to cut her ass off. I'm just so done. I hope somewhere down the line she realises that she should be a better person. I sure realised I do. I shouldn't have even gone down there with her. Anyway, thanks for the advice. Okay guys, and that's the end of that one. A nice quick one to end us off. Yeah, good lesson learned there for OP. I think we're all a product of who we surround ourselves with, and OP realised that she didn't want to be that sort of person. Take note, I guess. Am I the a-hole for disrespecting my husband's religion? I, 53 female, have been married to my husband Peter, 51, for 17 years. We have 2 kids, Joan, 15, and Eric, 17. Peter and I have been best friends for the majority of our time together, but things changed. About a year ago, Peter got into a car accident. He got hit by a drunk driver and was in a coma for a month. It was a really rough time for the family, and the kids and I were pretty much constantly by his side when we weren't at work or school. Thankfully, he pulled through, and he was able to get back to his life after months of recovery and intense physical therapy. Things started to feel like they were going back to normal, until he became super religious a few weeks ago. He started to believe that God had saved him, and that he needed to use the second chance he was given to spread the gospel. I'm all for people expressing their religion, but he has latched onto a very conservative type of Christianity, and it's causing a lot of friction between us. Eric is currently in his senior year of high school, and is working on the college application process now. Joan has been watching this and is very interested. The other day she came to me crying, saying she'd asked her dad what colleges were good for computer science, since she's been very interested in coding for a while now, and her dad said she wouldn't be going to college, since her future job was to be a wife and mother, and college would be wasted on her. To say I was furious would be an understatement. I went to him and asked him why he said that. He replied that he was spreading the good word, and he wanted to make sure we didn't lead our children into a sinful alternative lifestyle. I asked him if he expected me to quit my job. I work from home as an accountant, and focus on being a wife and mother too, and he said that he'd wanted to talk to me about this for a while. He said that he wanted me to quit my job since it's not suitable for a woman. This absolutely blindsided me since he'd never expressed anything like this before. I told him that I would not be quitting my job and our daughter would go to college whether he approved or not. He rolled his eyes and said I'd come around. It escalated last night. Joan was going to the movies with a couple friends and she came down wearing a pair of jeans and a crop top. Typical teenager stuff, nothing she hadn't worn before. Peter stopped her and told her she had to change. She asked why, and he said he wasn't going to let her leave the house looking like a skank. I was shocked. He'd never used language like that before. I told her to leave just as she was, and she left. Peter asked if I even cared about our daughter's soul, and I told him it's her body. She could dress herself how she wanted. He said her body is the property of God, not her, and that I needed to respect his religion. I told him I'd never respect a religion that treats women like second-class citizens, and he left the house in a huff. He hasn't come back yet. Am I the a-hole? Let's see some comments. Not the a-hole. While I appreciate that some people can have deeper connections with religious beliefs after a traumatic experience, I do wonder if a traumatic brain injury contributed to this swift and polarizing change. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Not the a-hole. He has gone on the deep end of effed up religions. He has a right to practice his chosen faith, but not force it upon others or use it to oppress people. Him wanting your daughter not to go to college but be a stay-at-home mum and a wife is saying that her body is the property of God is absolutely BS. You might need to start looking for a safe place to be if his views are that women are the property of God, and then probably their husband down the line. What he said makes me think that he might do something drastic to you or your daughter. Please be careful. Not the a-hole. Sounds like he had brain damage or got some brainwashing by some cult representative while recovering. Terrible stuff. Yep, either he is ill, or whilst he was ill, some C-word from a cult got into his ear. This is not something you pussyfoot around. Tell him to either ask them to have a medical look at why he has changed. He sounds either like he has a brain injury, or tell him he needs someone professional to talk to. Or thirdly, tell him that he now has to choose between his new beliefs or his family. And if he doesn't choose his family, then we can all scream the favourite Reddit answer, run away, divorce him. To all the God lot, I'm not saying you need a brain injury to believe. I'm saying a brain injury is a reason for such a turnaround in belief, because I would need a brain injury to find any of that fairy tale reasonable, and if that angers you, then I reckon you'd need a brain injury to knock the sky fairy out of your head. Ergo, brain injury. Yeah, look, I don't think that comment had to go that far to get the point across, but yeah, I think we get it. Let's go to an update. Hey all, thanks for the concern and kind words, I really needed it. First things first, I'm safe and I'm out of the house with my kids. A lot of you expressed concern about their safety and my financial security, and I want to assure you that is being taken care of. We are safe and with my dad, and my finances were already largely separate. We have a joint account, but that's a small fun money account for movie tickets, dinners out and stuff like that. I have my own savings that he cannot access. My mum had a gambling addiction when I was a kid that nearly ruined our finances, so my dad made me promise I'd have my own savings. Turns out he was really smart to say that. Some people suggested looking for a counsellor for Joan, and thankfully the kids already had a therapist for anxiety after the accident, and as soon as we left the house, we scheduled an emergency session to make sure they can process everything that's going on. A lot of you said Peter needed to see a doctor because this could be a symptom of TBI, which I agree with. The problem is, since he was discharged months ago, and the more worrying symptoms happened recently, I can't force him to get treatment, especially since nothing he said would be considered threatening. I had a call with him yesterday. He asked where I was, and I refused to tell him. He didn't get upset, thankfully. He asked why I took the kids and left, and I told him he wasn't the man I married anymore. I told him that things seemed to be getting worse, and that I needed him to see a doctor because this wasn't normal. He dismissed all of my concern, saying that he was finally being the sort of man he was supposed to be, and that the medical mafia is trying to make the godly parts of him disappear. I again told him that he wouldn't be seeing the kids or me until he saw a doctor. As soon as I said that, he hung up. I already blocked him on social media, but my brother sent me a screenshot soon after of a Facebook post he made. It was an unfocused rant that went on for several paragraphs about how doctors and Satan had gotten to me, and that I was hurting our daughter by letting her wear sinful clothing, and that I was setting her up to be harmed by vicious men in the workplace. All the comments were his friends telling him he was scaring them. Nobody was on his side. He said they had to cast Satan out of their hearts. When I saw this, I couldn't stop crying. I knew it was over then. There's no way I could make him better if he doesn't want to get better. I sat the kids down and told them I was going to start the process of getting a divorce. They took it really well, and Joan just kept saying thank you. I asked her if anything had happened other than words from him that I didn't know about, and thankfully she said no, and Eric said the same. So that's pretty much where things are. We're safe and he can't get access to my finances. I'm looking for a place of our own since the house is in his name, and I'm going to send my brother and his husband to get our stuff while he's at work tomorrow. I'm looking into lawyers now. Thank you all for everything, and I'll update as things continue. Gee, that's scary. Yeah, radicalism's definitely pretty common phenomena this day and age. I mean, with access to so many radical views, just via the internet, it's easy for people, particularly when they're vulnerable, to get dragged into this sort of mindset. Let's read some more comments. I'm happy that you and the kids are safe. I'm sorry you're all going through this, but leaving was the best decision for the three of you. I do agree that there's more to all of this than just him finding God, whether it's a TBI or some sort of mental breakdown. But like you said, he needs to want to go and want to get better. You can't force him. Please also keep documentation of everything going forward. You may need those and records of his extreme change in behaviour when it comes to custody of your kids. Luckily, they're old enough that the judge should give them the opportunity to express their opinion on their custody when it comes time. Best wishes for all of you, including your husband. I hope this goes as smoothly and amicably as possible. I hope you'll update us down the road. Opie replies, I'm documenting absolutely everything. My dad is helping me with finding a good lawyer and looking into if there's grounds to get a restraining order. He said he sounds like he's turning into John List, and I can't exactly deny that. Don't stay at your father's too long. That's probably one of the first places he'll look for you. And can your kids attend school online for a bit, just to make sure he can't catch them there? Also, notify the school that he's no longer a safe person. Good luck. Opie replies, talking with the school district today, and my dad lives in a gated community which knows not to let him in. Looking at apartments today. Not to hijack, but I think another commenter was asking if your son was still in contact with his father, your current husband. Opie says, oh my god, I completely missed that. No, I asked Eric if his dad had reached out to him, and he said, and I quote, F him. Okay, on to another quick update. Hey people, first off, I'm still safe, and the kids are still safe. I've got news for all of you. I don't want to call it good news, but it's taken a load off my chest. A few hours ago, my husband called a co-worker of his and started rambling about his current situation, during which he mentioned suicide. As soon as the conversation ended, he called 911, and since this was the first time he made a threat to himself, my husband was put into a 5150 hold. He's going to get medical treatment, finally. Thanks again for all the support and the kindness you have all shown. If there's any other updates, I'll let you know. And another update. Hey folks, I have another and hopefully more substantial update. After my husband was put into a 5150 hold, I was able to get in touch with the mental health facility he was put into. I mentioned that he'd been in a coma a year ago and filled them in on the personality changes I'd been seeing. They said they would pass it along to his care team. Yesterday I received a call from the facility. I'm still listed as his emergency contact, so they were able to give me more information. After I passed along my experience, they ordered an MRI scan. They found a massive cranial abscess that was pressing on his frontal lobe, and he was immediately sent to surgery to drain it because of the size. The surgery went well, but they say that they don't know what the long-term impacts will be. He's still really out of it, so I don't know how his behaviour is going to be. The kids and I are understandably very shaken up. We're still with my father, and we're going to continue to look for our own place in the meantime. We don't know if his personality will return to how it was before, but I'm going to err on the side of caution. No unsupervised visits with the kids, and I'll only see him in the presence of a therapist or lawyer for the time being. I really don't know how it's going to go from here, but I know we'll make it through together. Thank you all for everything. Yeah, head injuries and anything to do with concussion are really scary, and there's really not that much research on it. Personally, as someone who's into contact sports, you're always hearing about CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy or something like that. Yeah, and it's like a long-term thing that affects people who've had concussions or, traumatic kind of brain injuries before. And yeah, it's just horrible, the things you hear about it, like massive mood changes like this, people having suicidal tendencies when they have no reason to before, Yeah, head injuries are pretty scary. Let's go to the final update. Hey everyone, it's been a little while. First off, thank you to everyone who reached out and sent kind words and support. It really means a lot to me. A lot has happened since I last posted, and I want to get you all up to speed. After the surgery, like I said I would in my last post, I had visits with my husband with a counsellor from the hospital present during his stay. The first visit he was obviously very out of it since he'd been in surgery. During the second visit, he was more lucid. He was calmer, but unfortunately he still believed that he was being mistreated. He kept bringing up how the doctors had tried to remove God from his body, but they had failed, and how he didn't want to see the kids again after they'd been lost to the devil. I told him I loved him, but that this wasn't him, and I hoped that there was a part of him I knew still in there. He got real quiet and said to the counsellor that he wanted to be alone. I left, and that was the last time I spoke to him in person. From that point on, he completely stonewalled me. Any attempt to text him would be met with either silence or a Bible verse. I ended up renting an apartment with Joan and Eric, and we awkwardly started adjusting to a new normal. All was going about as well as it could, until my husband got into another car accident. My husband got discharged since he was deemed no longer a risk to himself or to others. Doctors told him he wasn't supposed to drive, but he apparently convinced a friend of his to let him borrow his car. He was driving when he suddenly drifted into oncoming traffic and got in a head-on collision with a tractor-trailer. He died at the scene. The police said he likely had a seizure or passed out while driving. I'm not going to lie here. I'm a mess right now. My support system is the only reason I'm able to be a semi-functional adult right now, but everybody has been there for me and the kids, and I'm so grateful. I really don't know how to end this post, but thank you for being there during all of this. Wow, that's the end of that one. Jeez, I know he was pretty mentally gone at that point, but still, it's pretty tragic. And to be honest, when they said that he had a seizure maybe or passed out, I was pretty skeptical. I mean, I really don't think you can put it past someone like that in that mental state and in that position to, maybe start thinking about taking the easy way out, for lack of a better term. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, we're on the relationship advice subreddit. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, My sister, boyfriend, and parents have completely stopped engaging with me. I, 27 female, have a younger sister, Jenny, 25. Jenny has been with and married to her husband, Jake, 27, for almost 3 years, together for 5. They really do seem like a match made in heaven. However, one thing she struggled with for a long time is infertility. Jenny has wanted kids for as long as I can remember, but when they started trying 3 years ago, it just never happened. They tried everything, but their doctor just said Jenny wasn't capable of carrying a baby to term. They've since looked into adoption or even surrogacy, though it's way above their budget. I, on the other hand, have never wanted kids. Not when I was a girl, not now, and hopefully I'll never have any in the future. I don't know why, but children make me anxious, and childbirth is just a nightmare to even think about. Recently I found out I was pregnant. It was a complete shock to me and sent me into a panic attack. My boyfriend, 29, was upset when I immediately suggested ending the pregnancy. I told him I didn't want kids ever, but he was adamant on not ending the pregnancy. He suggested taking full custody and raising the baby all by himself if that's what I wanted. He reluctantly even suggested adopting the baby out of my hands completely. Anything but he was not willing to be without the baby. My parents reacted worse. They said they wouldn't allow me to hurt a living being and offered other options. They even told my sister, who just jumped at the chance to adopt my baby, saying it was perfect and the baby could remain in the family and be raised by loving parents. Now, I don't doubt they'd make great parents, but I just don't want to go through a pregnancy. Every moment felt like an explosion would go off at any moment. I hated it and I refused to continue with the pregnancy. I went behind their backs and got the procedure done. When they found out, my boyfriend just coldly told me we are done and walked out. He isn't taking my calls now. Jenny wailed and insulted me before Jake took her home. She then blocked me and has since refused to even look at me. My parents keep saying they're disappointed and wished I wasn't their daughter so they wouldn't have to deal with me. I just want to fix things with them. They're my family and I've always been kind and caring. I desperately want to sort their problems and for things to go back to how it was before I got pregnant. Any advice on how I can explain my feelings to my family? Edit to add. Guys, please, my parents and sister and boyfriend are not bad people. I know I wasn't in the wrong for choosing what to do with my body, and neither do I think they were wrong for being pro-life. My parents have cared for, raised, and supported me all my life, through my teenage years, my studies, my relationship issues, career problems, everything. I know they aren't bad people. I just want to know how I can explain my feelings to them, because I'm confused and struggling with expressing myself. My boyfriend and I have been together for 9 years, damn it. We literally grew up together and promised to always be there for each other and always choose each other. He supported me through everything. He offered every help he could think of during the 2.5 months I was pregnant. He tried to understand my fears and help me through it. I understand I was wrong to go behind his back, but that's done, and now I want to know how we can move past this. He didn't leave when people made fun of him for dating me, when college life got too hectic and we had to go days without seeing each other, when my grandma died, when I was sick, or when I was terrified of a baby. He was there for it all, and I don't want to be without him. Please help me convince him to seek counselling or therapy, or whatever it takes. I can't bear to lose him. Let's look at some comments. The ship with the boyfriend has sailed. I don't think you two will be able to recover from this. I'm just wondering how you and your boyfriend are together for 9 whole years, but your views on children are that much different. You and your boyfriend will not be getting over this. Your family may or may not come back around in time, but there will be no coming back from the breakup. 9 years or 20 years, you're fundamentally incompatible, and that's not reconcilable. No one is wrong in this situation, except the parents and sister who had no right to involve themselves in the first place. You made the choice you felt was right for you, not going through the pregnancy. He made the choice not to continue the relationship based on your choice, which he felt was right for him. Regardless of whether you went through the abortion or kept the baby, you were already standing on 2 opposite cliffs with your boyfriend, and there was never going to be a solid bridge between you. I'm sorry for your loss, all of it, but it wasn't going to work out once you both expressed wholly opposite views on childbearing. Okay, now for the update. Hello everyone. I suppose I should give people an update since I've gotten a lot of DMs and messages on my last post. Firstly, thank you to everyone who gave me advice and tried to see my point of view. I wasn't happy to see all the messages telling me I'm in denial, but I suppose it did get me to start thinking of my next actions instead of worrying and crying. My parents called me yesterday. My boyfriend, yes, he still is my boyfriend, we've not broken up, talked to them and actually helped them to see my perspective. They had called him to apologize for my actions, but he was adamant that they needed to apologize to me. He explained Jenny wouldn't have gotten our baby anyway, since he was planning to be a single parent and raise the baby himself, so it was their fault for giving her false hope, not mine. And he even drove them to our house so we could all talk. My mum is still a bit upset, but they apologised and promised to talk to Jenny. I'm hopeful things will work out between us. We're sisters after all. After they left, my boyfriend and I talked. He apologised for forcing me to do something I didn't want. He said he thought if he took good enough care of me, the fear would slowly dissipate and we could be happy. He now sees that he was wrong. We hugged and cried for a long time. He kept saying sorry and I told him it was nothing, that as long as I had him, I would be fine. He then said he wanted to give us closure, but he still wanted to break up. At that, my heart sank. I fell to the floor crying and he held me through it all, cuddling me and kissing my head. He clearly still loved me and I loved him. I asked why we have to end this. He told me he wanted kids, our kids, but if it couldn't be, he'd rather move on and not linger as staying child-free was impossible for him. I promised him I'd love him beyond anything and I'd do anything for us to remain together, but he just wouldn't listen. He kept saying us wasn't enough, that he wanted kids. He apologised again and tried to leave. At that point, I was desperate and I grabbed him and promised him I would get therapy. We could try therapy and maybe in a few more years I'll be ready for kids. I promised to try for him but begged that he stay. He looked so sad. It broke my heart. I kept begging for a second chance and refused to let him go until he said yes. Finally, he said he'd think about it. So that's where we're at. He asked for a week and promised he'll think about it. I scheduled an appointment for therapy tomorrow. I think I can get better. After all, the fear is irrational, and this incident has shown me the desire to be with Will, the boyfriend, is way stronger than my fear of pregnancy. Will has done so much for me. He's always been there for me. I've decided to give this a try. I can't be without Will, and I'm willing to overcome anything to be with him. That's it for now. I think Will saw my post, since he's on Reddit too, and that spurred him into actions. Reddit also got me working too, so thank you for that. Please pray for me and my relationship. Okay guys, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, sounds like Opie's in denial a bit, and it sounds like Will's probably already made up his mind. But we can only hope, I guess. My mother ruined my bachelorette trip. So a few months back, I had a bachelorette trip to Puerto Rico. 2 of my bridesmaids were able to go, and my mother and sister came as well. I asked my mum to be the maid of honour since I thought it would help create a closer bond between us getting ready for my wedding. My whole goal was to have everyone get along and just have a good time. I should have known this was going to be a disaster. A couple of weeks before my mother started bashing all of my bridesmaids and friends, she was particularly focused on one that was actually going on the trip. I ended up paying for my mum, sister, and my own flight to help the burden of my mum having to pay for both her and my sister. The plan was my mother was going to pay for her and my sister's hotel. My friend reached out to everyone to try and plan something for me without me getting involved. I would like to add that I planned the bachelorette trip as the bride. When my friend reached out to my mum and called her, she wanted to help as much as she can. My friend is actually Puerto Rican, so she was going to be a huge help with this trip. At the time, I didn't know about this call. My mother called me at 3 a.m. after having that call with my friend that day to tell me she'd not been doing her maid of honour duties because she was observing everyone and everything. She then said as the maid of honour, she should be planning the bachelorette trip. I found this conversation odd, but I said okay. I was relieved that she finally stepped up to help me with the trip. My mum did say before the call ended to not tell my friend she talked to me about this, which I did find odd as well. The next day, my friend called me and told me that she wanted to make sure that I had a great bachelorette, that to remember it's all about me. She wanted to help me with the excursions I wanted to do, and I told her my mum wanted to plan as well, so they could work together. I saw my mother the next day, and she went on a rant that my friend was disrespectful and said she was not letting a little girl control her on this trip, and made it seem like something was wrong with my friend, and how she did not want to wear her stupid t-shirts during the trip. She started raging and telling me she doesn't want to go on the rental car with my friend and wants to take an Uber. Her words, "Your friend is disrespectful and I will beat this b-ass." This automatically started stressing me out. She said she didn't like my friend and she was disrespectful and has mental issues. I ended up calling my friend and asking her if she could cancel the rental, and she said she could not. I created a group chat for the ones attending the trip, and my friend was asking questions about what activities we were going to do and how excited she was, and my mum and sister was instantly annoyed. My mum was supposed to plan the activities that we were going to do in Puerto Rico. She refused to let my friend do it or participate in helping, and again, my friend is Puerto Rican. Fast forward to the first day of the bachelorette trip. When we arrived, my mum's luggage was missing that had all of her toiletries. She was upset about it. When we got to the hotel, I let everyone rest since it was an early flight. My friend got there a little later in the day and I met up with her and my other friend in the lobby. I called my mum and sister to meet us downstairs and so we could go with them to replace the toiletries that were lost and to have dinner. As me and my two friends were waiting, my mum came downstairs and stood behind my Puerto Rican friend and said hi to her so low that she could not hear her. I hinted to her that my mum was standing over and behind her while she was sitting on the lobby couch, which I thought was weird. She turned around and said hello. My mum instantly just said, "Okay, I'm leaving now, go be with your friends," and she literally ran off. My sister did not say a word. When I tell you the energy was so off you can cut the tension in the air with a knife, I asked my friend what was going on with her and my mum because something just felt really off. She told me she did not really know her, so she did not understand why. I decided to just go to the bar with my friends and wait for my mum and sister to get back. 5 minutes later, I get a text from my mum saying, "Shame on you. You betrayed your family. You chose a nobody over your own family. I'm disappointed, and your sister and I are out of the wedding." I responded and said that I did not and asked what the problem was. I was then ignored. I started crying hysterically because I did not want my bachelorette to be like this. My friends tried to cheer me up and took me out to dinner. I decided to let things cool off and try to smooth things over in the morning with my mum and sister. I went to my mum and sister's room and knocked on the door several times and kept going back to knock on the door. I also called each of them and no answer. I even waited around the lobby to see if I ran into them and nothing. I called both of them again later in the afternoon and finally my sister picked up. I asked if they were okay and if we can squash whatever happened and move forward with the plans. I asked why they did not answer me for hours and they said they were sleeping, which I knew was a lie because I heard someone look through the peephole when I knocked earlier. My sister said they are not doing any of the activities that I wanted to do and that they were having lunch and would not tell me where they were. I felt like crap. My mum planned nothing that she said she was going to plan. My friend even texted and reached out to my mum and apologised for whatever my mum thought she did and called, and my mum did not answer. My friends scrambled and tried to make the best of the rest of the trip for me while my mum and sister were MIA. The day before we had to leave and go home, my sister reached out to get their plane tickets, which I purchased. I sent it to them and was immediately upset. My mum asked me to put my credit card down for her and my sister's hotel and said she would pay me back. I honestly think she had no intention of paying me back because she is my mother. They ignored me during the entire trip and now demanded their plane tickets. I decided to change my flight and leave earlier. I couldn't sit on the plane with my mum and sister and act like this was normal. My sister called and asked if I was going to get an Uber to the airport, and I told her no, I have a different flight. My mum finally appeared and called me and said so many hurtful things. My mum told me I was always disloyal, how I interpreted everything wrong, I overthink, I don't care about her and my sister, how I was feeling is wrong, and called me a liar and hung up in my face. My friend started to tell me about the phone conversation that she had with my mum prior. She didn't want to tell me out of respect for my mother because my mum asked her not to tell me about the phone conversation. My friend said my mum was talking badly about me, my fiancé, my fiancé's family, and how I was planning my wedding. My friend was put in this awkward position. Ever since that trip, I have not spoken to my mum or sister, and they did not show up to my wedding. I only get a text from my sister to tell me to pay both her and my mum's phone bill once a month, and that's it. What on earth? I think I'm missing something here, because what's the mum and the sister's problem? God, I refuse to believe people like this actually exist, but I read about it so much that it's hard to refute that fact. Let's check out the comments. My eyebrows rose when your mum called your friend a little girl. Those are big words from someone who allegedly needed their trip paid for. Are you cutting them off financially? It's okay if you do. They don't treat you with love and care, so why should they receive it from you? OP replies, I plan on cutting them off. The only thing left to cut off is the phone bill situation. I'm nervous about doing it because it's going to create more conflict that I don't need. Your mother totally ignored the fact that the bachelorette party was about you and not her. Did I miss something? Why would you pay their phone bills at all? OP replies, something I've been doing for 10 years since I was in college. My mother made that my responsibility when I was living with her and going to school. It was a real struggle to do when I was in college. She never took that responsibility back. 1. Why did you feel like crap when you were on the bachelorette week? Your mother and sister were the ones that were acting like spoiled brats. It sounds as though your mother wanted this trip to only be for you, her and your sister. 2. Stop paying their cell phone bill. They talked crap to and about you, acted the way that they did on your trip, and skipped your wedding because it didn't resolve around them. They don't get to benefit from your money after treating you like complete and utter crap. And 3. Block them on any and all avenues. You're truly better off without them in your life. OP says, I felt like crap because I had good intentions, and I came to the realization that this behavior is never going to change. It was almost like a mourning of the relationship with them for me, because I tried everything to make it work. This was a really important part of my life, and it just got ruined for absolutely no reason. Another commenter adds, I added allegedly because, while I didn't know OP or her family, I know people who have money to go on trips with friends or buy name-brand bags, but suddenly pull the poor card when it comes to someone like OP. Did they really need help, or was their poor planning and prioritizing made an emergency on OP's dime? OP says, she has this thing where she'll never say she can't afford something, but when the time comes, she's looking for me to pay and feels entitled and like I should pay because she's my mother, if that makes sense. Why in the world would you make your mother a maid of honor? This all happened because you're a pushover, paying for everything, including phone bill. Even after everything, please grow a spine. OP says, the intention of making her a maid of honor was in the hope that it would make our relationship better and create a better bond. After the fact, I definitely regret making her maid of honor. Lesson learned, though. Honestly, I would have forgotten the plane ticket to my hotel room when I checked out, and then suggested they figure it out, since you already paid for everything else and they were horribly ungrateful to begin with, not the a-hole. As many suggested, cut them off completely starting yesterday. Really, starting from the PR trip. I'm assuming they were your only immediate family? No other siblings or a father? What about extended? Has anyone else tried to get involved, like flying monkey style or something? OP replies, they are my immediate family on my mum's side. No flying monkeys. My dad is not with her anymore for a long time, but he did encourage me to speak to her. Okay, I'm curious to see what OP does here. Let's go to an update. Thank you all for the advice, commentary, and inputs. I wanted to follow up on the original post that I posted. So far, I've gone no contact with my mother and sister. I ended up getting a new phone line and phone number. I texted my sister to let her know I will no longer be paying for her or my mother's phone bill anymore. I then cut off that phone and moved in with my new phone line. I blocked and removed them from all social media as well. Once I did that, my mother decided to appear and attempt to call me at my job, stating there was an emergency and she needed to speak with me. I told my colleague that I would not be answering the phone and there is no emergency, and to not answer my work phone line if she does call. After that, she has not made any more attempts. I believe she tried to call to bully me into paying their phone bill and try to do the guilt trip and shame me like she attempted to do on my bachelorette trip, but I was not falling for it. I also cut off my sister's Apple Music, which I know she'd be ticked about. It all felt good. I also found out that my mother added her husband's phone installment plan to the bill a year ago without telling me, and that literally pushed me over the edge. I didn't notice it because it was an installment plan that only brought the bill up to $35. That $35 a month adds up over time. This added up to me paying $500 for it before I cut everything off. I mean, who has their daughter paying for their husband's brand new iPhone 14? How does anyone sit there comfortable doing that to their own daughter? This I will never understand. It has been 7 months so far since I decided to go no contact. I can say that my life has been more peaceful, with no drama. It has brought me and my husband closer together. I can truly say I am happy and starting to get back to being me again. My relationship with my mum and sister was toxic and put me in a really dark place. Everything that happened during that trip has opened my eyes, and I'm looking forward to better things, and I plan on redoing my bachelorette trip the right way. Okay guys, and there you go. Yeah, probably the right decision from OP there. I can imagine it must be even harder and hurt a lot more to go no contact with someone that's your family and has been your whole life. It wouldn't be easy. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one and we'll jump to our next story. Okie dokie, this next one was written by user LollyLuHoo and it's titled, Mum changed wedding cake behind my back and doesn't know that I know. What should I do? My fiancé and I are getting married this fall, and the cake has been a huge point of contention with my mum. Long saga, but the gist is that we wanted a dessert bar or cheesecake instead of a traditional cake. My mum initially insisted on having at least a small cake for just us to cut. We compromised and got quotes. Right before we put the deposit down, she decided that having just a cake for us and not for guests is tacky, so we needed to get a sheet cake to serve as well. We were annoyed because she was the one who suggested it, so we cut our losses and opted to do tiered cheesecake and mini cheesecakes as we originally wanted. My mum would not let this go for the past 6 months. She then decided to focus on pushing for a groom's cake. My fiancé did not want one. When I told her this, she said it's really only groom's cakes in names and not about what he wants. I told her a firm no multiple times because she wouldn't give up. That brings us to this week. I got a text yesterday saying she was at the bakery and paid for the order. I got suspicious because I never included her in those communications. I called the bakery today and was told by a very apologetic employee that my mum had added multi-tiered groom's cakes with different fillings, flowers, the whole kit and caboodle. We still have cheesecake, but I feel like it'll look silly next to what is essentially a wedding cake. My question now is, what do I do? She doesn't know that I know. I'm furious and hurt. Obviously it's just a cake, but it's not really about that now. She went behind my back and crossed multiple boundaries after I told her no. Am I being a bridezilla for not letting her have the traditional wedding cake? Geez, weddings make people do really weird things, don't they? Let's go to the comments. Why should she have a cake at your wedding? If you don't want cake, just change the order back and call it a day. And add a password for all your vendors moving forward so changes can't be made without it. OP replies, everyone I've spoken to has either been in the camp of, well, they're paying for the wedding, or not her wedding, not her cake. I think that's why I'm torn, because yes, they are paying, but changing the order behind my back, I'm more upset about the violation of trust than the actual cake, I think. It's not just a cake, it's a breach of your boundaries and your wishes. Cancel her order, put a password on all your wedding accounts. You are not marrying her, you are marrying your partner. OP says, exactly, it's the breach of trust that's been the most upsetting. I need to call back tomorrow and see if it's possible to cancel and get a refund, since she paid in full. I suspect she did that intentionally, thinking she was being so clever. Ask the bakery to convert the cake into additional cheesecake and mini cheesecakes, maybe a smaller groom's cake that looks nothing like a wedding cake. Do not tell her you did this. When you go to the bakery, have a password put on the order so it cannot be changed after you make the appropriate changes. She thinks she got something over on you. If she does check on it, the password will stop her from making any other changes. If she shows up at the venue with yet another cake, instruct the people at the venue to put it in the back and not bring it out. OP replies, thanks for the advice. Having the cake changed to more cheesecakes is a good idea. Never in a million years did I think I'd have to become like one of the Redditors and password protect my wedding, but here we are. Yeah, actually, I've got to be honest, I've never heard of putting a password on your wedding, like bookings and stuff. That's interesting, but makes sense. Let's go to an update. Hello again. A big thank you to everyone who gave advice on my original post. I'm now married and had the best, most relaxing honeymoon with my now husband without any pesky family bothering us. By the time I posted, it was too late to cancel the wedding due to deposits and contracts, so I continued as planned. And to clarify, yes, my parents did pay for the wedding, although my husband and I made it clear several times that we did not expect or need them to pay for everything. No, I don't think them paying excuses my mum's actions. My parents reiterated that it was our wedding and we should do what we wanted. Clearly the cake was the exception to this, though she had previously said to get cheesecake if that's what we wanted. My husband and I got a laugh out of everyone's suggestions for how to handle the cake. Initially, I wanted to go the petty route and surprise my mum by calling the bakery to change the cake design to something she would find tacky that would reflect my husband's hobbies, like a groom's cake should do. After taking a few days to weigh my options, I knew my desire for petty satisfaction would nuke my relationship with my mum, which had truthfully never had this dynamic up until wedding planning. I knew that she absolutely was in the wrong and acting like a child, and while I'm the actual child in the relationship, I wanted to be mature and handle this like an adult, if only for my own moral high ground. I communicated with my parents and listed all the reasons why this situation, and others throughout the wedding planning process, were hurtful and completely out of line. Shock of the century to everyone on Reddit, I'm sure. It didn't go well. There were a series of texts I received from my mum that demonstrated she couldn't take accountability or comprehend that I wasn't mad that she ruined my wedding by ordering a cake, but rather that she went behind my back, knowing it would surprise and upset me on my wedding day. I attempted multiple times to redirect to the actual issue with little success. We ended the conversation with her apologizing for a cake making me and my husband so upset. This obviously wasn't a genuine apology or the main issue, even if she thought it was. She also agreed to move the groom's cake to a meal we had the day before the wedding, which I was fine with. At this point, we were a week out from the wedding, and the thought of continuing to press the issue was too much for me to handle with everything else on my plate. I dropped the rope leading up to the wedding so I could refocus on enjoying my wedding as best as I could. I interacted with my mum as little as possible the day of, and our wedding party and coordinator did a fantastic job being a buffer. While I've had some contact with her since, it has dramatically declined so I can get some much needed space. Obviously, we'll need to have some tough conversations, but I'm choosing to spend my time with my new husband and getting back into therapy. Weddings, man, they really bring out the crazy in people. Oh, and the cheesecakes were a huge hit, by the way. There you go, Opie said the exact same thing that I said earlier in the video. Yeah, you really got to be ready for anything when you're planning a wedding, right? Good to hear it got resolved though. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you guys about this one. Maybe you got some similar stories from your wedding that you'd like to post. My fiancé told me I wouldn't be able to pull anyone else, and I'm offended. How do I manage my emotions? Me and my fiancé have been together for almost 5 years, engaged for 6 months. We've never had issues where one of us was mad for a long time until this, and he, my mum, and my friends think that I'm overreacting. I had a dream some nights ago that I ended up dating a famous actor by accident. We've both had dreams where crazy things happened and told each other about it. I told him in the morning and we laughed about it. However, he made a comment about how my dreams are always extremely delusional. I asked him to elaborate, thinking it would be something funny, and instead was met with a comment about how I wouldn't be capable of pulling someone half as attractive as said actor, let alone him. I was taken aback, and he doubled down and told me to be realistic, that most men wouldn't even look my way because I look like I'm already taken and stopped looking interesting some time ago, and now even more with the engagement. I told him that I don't want any men to look my way, but the implication of his words hurt me. He told me it was irrelevant because we're together and I wouldn't leave him, and to stop being offended over something I asked, and left. For the record, my weight, hair, and general appearance have stayed the same, and I'm low-key high maintenance, so this isn't me letting go or something. I called my mum for reassurance, and she agreed I was overreacting. I called my friends for the same purpose and was met with the same response. I feel very hurt because I love my fiancé and find him very attractive, and I know other people do too. I'm grateful that he chose to be with me, and that makes me value him even more. I thought he thought the same about me, but apparently he thinks I would never leave him because I can't pull anybody. That somehow is making me feel like he doesn't value me as I do, and worst of all, that I may be wrong for how I feel, but can't control it. Am I overreacting? If so, how can I manage this so this doesn't affect us long term? It's been almost a week and he's still being short with me because, quote, I look like I'm miserable about a petty thing. I just want things to go back to normal. Edit to add, the actor was Adam Driver. I've had a few DMs asking this in case it's relevant. My closest friend group is a 4-girls group where I'm the only one with a relationship, or that has been in one. Another detail someone messaged me to include. I do have other friends, but I haven't told them anything given the response I got from my closest circle. Finally, I have a long history of being super sensitive. I've cried over minor things my whole life, which is why it's not surprising for my closest ones to immediately call me out on it. I'm in therapy addressing that, my pushover nature and my self-esteem issues. Thank you to everyone that has commented and given me support and reassurance. I'll be forcing him to talk to me today to see if this is in any way salvageable or if I just lost half a decade of my life, lol. Geez, I mean, pretty rude and unnecessary to say that about your partner, right? I mean, I feel like OP's got the good side of the relationship dynamic down pat, like she said. I think you're attractive and I'm grateful that I get to spend my life with you. I think that's pretty healthy to think, although the boyfriend obviously doesn't think that way. And to be honest, in my experience, that's not a trait that screams longevity to me. Let's look at the comments. That doesn't sound healthy. Has he shown this type of response in the past? As a man, I feel like my response would have been something along the lines of, if you left me for Brad Pitt, I wouldn't even be mad. And also as a man, I would expect the same from my significant other, not some demeaning response. OP replies, never, that's why I was so taken aback. He has refused to talk about the issue, as he says it's a non-issue. We've openly discussed celebrity crushes in the past, and even this particular actor, who I don't find attractive. I honestly came out of the blue. I had no idea he thought that. Your fiancé called you ugly, and said that he is allowed to treat you poorly because you're too afraid to leave him. This is who you want to spend the rest of your life with? People often get into relationships that mirror their parents in some way. The fact that you got into a relationship with someone who acts like this is probably in part a result of your mum raising you to have low self-esteem and to prioritise the security of a relationship over being treated well. Her advice is bad. Opie replies, I've had self-esteem issues in the past. I'm currently in therapy and doing so much better. Even so, my fiancé helped me really be comfortable in my body. This feels so out of character for him, and it's the first time he's reacted angry towards me. I was honestly at a loss. How is it a non-issue if you're upset? That makes it an issue. Opie says, I have a long history of being upset at non-issues because I've been told multiple times I'm overly sensitive. It's getting better and I'm getting better. This was really out of the blue, but it did set me back a couple steps. Who told you there were non-issues? Any specific examples? Usually my family. I'm the second oldest, but oldest girl in the family. When expectations were different for me than my older brother or younger sister, and I tried to object, those would be called non-issues, and I was always the one to compromise and deal with it. In the relationship, I can just think of one previous instance for something that was a non-issue, which was a minor fight regarding chores, where I got ticked at him because he didn't wash dishes properly. This became a "you're ungrateful because he helps" from my immediate female family members. Okay, let's go to an update. Hi everyone. I've been getting messages regarding my previous post and also people asking how I'm doing. I'm doing good, and I would like to thank everyone who took the time to comment, reassure me, and even share resources for me. The TLDR is that I'm going into the holidays as a single woman. I did try to talk it out and solve it like adults, but my ex was uncooperative and childish, to say the least. For those of you who want the details, here goes. First, you gave me the courage to reach out to my other friends outside my closest circle, and they were shocked by what happened and told me not to brush it off. They echoed many of your comments and even called it negging too. Also, my therapist backed up my feelings and said I needed to straight up chat with my partner and to set some clear boundaries and decide what's best for me and what I wish to enforce as my non-negotiables. Second, I did follow someone's advice and started going out more with my supportive friends. My birthday actually fell in between these dates and I decided to celebrate it by bar hopping in my city, and it went great. My ex was invited. We were still together at that point and was sulking the whole time because I did get external attention, which I shut down. Finally, what happened with my now ex? After talking with my therapist, I did explain my feelings to him again and reiterated that those comments will not be tolerated if we were to continue in the relationship. I also said we needed counselling as a couple because this could stem from insecurities from both sides. He did not apologise, but rather justified his actions under 3 arguments, and yes, these came from a 28-year-old man. 1. I do look less interesting, and it's unfair to use my birthday as an example of me attracting anyone because I was catfishing as a younger woman, as the girls I invited are mostly 22 to 24. 2. Adam Driver, the actor I dreamt about, is taller than him. We're both 5'7" and he is insecure about it, so dreaming with people taller than him is disrespectful and emasculating. 3. Even if, his words, I'm objectively attractive, ever since I started therapy I became cocky and more demanding, so he took the chance to bring me back to earth. All of this was a shock to me. I felt as if the man I was with for the last 5 years was not there anymore. This was a complete 180 from what he was before, and I do believe it's a mix of slipping off the mask after the engagement and the fact that he changed jobs to a male-dominated corporation, and those new friends did give me a weird vibe regarding their stance on women and equality. Regardless of what prompted this change, I ended it, returned to the ring, packed a bag with my essentials I had at his place, and left while he threw a tantrum. He was super uncooperative in returning some of my remaining stuff. He sent things in trash bags full of glitter and won't let me enter his apartment anymore. He also sent me all of the Star Wars movies with Adam Driver in them broken and destroyed, lol. This made all the pain I felt almost immediately disappear, which feels weird because I did love him and it was a long relationship, yet I grieved for like a week only. I did count my losses and just accepted some things I won't get back, blocked him, and haven't heard or seen him since. Thank God it's a big city. My immediate circle of friends was cut off as they valued more going to a wedding than my well-being. I'm low contact with my mum and I'm being supported by my dad and siblings. I've continued therapy, did a Friendsgiving celebration, and I'm bracing myself for the holidays with my family. I'm mostly okay, relearning to be on my own, to validate my feelings, and currently debating whether to send a thank you card to Adam Driver. Thanks everyone for reading. Happy holidays. God, can you imagine being Adam Driver and getting a thank you card explaining this entire situation? You'd just be so confused. But yeah, in situations like this, it seems like true colours tend to come out of people, and she saw the true colours of her ex-boyfriend. Thankfully, because he seems like a piece of work now. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Give me your thoughts down below. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Okay, we're still on the relationship subreddit. This one was written by Throwaway Account, and it's titled, Me and my sister found a video of our mum, and she thinks it's of her cheating, but I think it might not be. We can't agree what to do with it. My sister found this video on my mum's laptop. I think she was using her laptop for some school stuff, and she must have gone snooping through her personal files. She found this video. It's from a few years ago according to the date of the file. It's definitely our mum in the video, and it looks to be in some hotel room. There's definitely a man in the video, but he's holding the camera and we don't see his face or hear his voice. I don't want to go into any detail, but it's basically a striptease or sex tape filmed by the man, so while our mum is clearly identifiable, I can't tell exactly who the man is. I first got angry at my sister for showing it to me. I told her this is gross and I don't want to see that. She told me she thinks it could mean our mum is cheating on our dad and we should at least present the information to our dad. I told her it's very likely it's him in the photo. You can see the man's hand in a few shots. I think it's my dad. She seems to not think it's him. I told her if we show it to them and it's him, not only will we be embarrassed, but they would be mad at her for snooping. She was like, "Why do you care? I'm the one who did the snooping, so only I'll get in trouble. I'll cover you if they try to get mad at you." I told her there has to be a more sensitive way of approaching the situation, instead of just bombarding our parents with, "Hey, we saw your sex tape, which could either be with you or mum's secret lover, and we should consider the fallout." However, she seems pretty adamant that she just wants to show them. She thinks it's the safest option, since if she was cheating, she gets exposed, but if it was just dad, then no harm done. We can't agree on what to do, and I have a feeling she might show it to them regardless of what I feel, but if I push hard enough, I might convince her of an alternative solution. Any ideas on what we should do? Okay. I mean, personally, I'd probably just leave it, but, yeah, I don't know. What would you do here? Let's go to the comments. Dude, is your sister following her intuition, or does she have a history of stirring up drama? A few years ago, you all lived with your mum and dad. Of course they'd have to do the F under wraps. Even if it is some other guy, your parents could be into that. How would you know? After all, your parents don't share their sex lives with you, which means when it turns out your mum didn't cheat and leave video evidence of her infidelity on her laptop, they're going to feel an incredible invasion of privacy. I say, your sister found the tape, she deals with this mess. This isn't your problem. I agree with you that your mother did not cheat. I mean, come on. Okay, I don't think either of you truly realise how grossly invasive and inappropriate you're being, so imagine this scenario to put it in perspective. Say that a married friend of your sister kindly lent your sister her laptop to do some work. Instead of being a normal, decent human being doing her work and then returning the laptop to her friend, your sister decides to snoop in her friend's private files. She finds a sexy video, but she can't tell if the guy in it is her friend's husband or not. If her friend is cheating, she wants to expose her but isn't sure how to handle it. So she brings you into it, shows you the video and asks for your opinion. The two of you argue over it and try to determine the best course to take regarding your sister's friend's sex tape and possible adultery. See how frickin' insane and psychotically nosy you both sound in that scenario? This is the exact same scenario. Your parents are not yours to meddle with and snoop on just because they're your parents. Their marriage and privacy deserves the same respect as the marriage and privacy of a friend, acquaintance, or stranger. How would you feel if your parents snooped on you or your sister and tried to involve themselves into your relationships? Can you imagine how violated you would feel? You, and especially your sister, need to take a big step back from this and honestly look at your behaviour here. Your sister is being a toxic nightmare, and instead of walking away in disgust, you are going along for the ride. Shame on both of you. Yeah, well, pretty well put, honestly. Okay, Opie comes up with some plans in the comments. Option A, sending it anonymously. I like the idea of sending it to him anonymously, maybe through an email or something. If it's him, no harm done, and he doesn't know it was us. One commenter says, please don't do that. Your parents will be crapping themselves wondering what kind of pervert hacker has gone through their computer to watch their private videos. Another commenter adds, but if it is him and you send it anonymously, he'll be freaking out about who has it and how they found it. Option B, telling Dad about the video. If it's him in it, he'll know it's him, and won't he get mad at us for even looking at it? Is there a way I can let him know that I'm sorry I had to look at it, but it's only because we were concerned about him, so he doesn't get mad? Option C, faking finding it in front of Dad. Okay, what if we go up to him and tell him there's something we need to show him on the laptop, and then while browsing it in front of him, we pretend to stumble on the thing for the first time? We can be like, what is this? If he genuinely doesn't know and says open it to find out, it means he doesn't know about it. If he's like, no, don't click that, it means he knows. One commenter says, dude, if you use one of the plans you've put in this thread or confront him with it, please post an update. This is gold. I can't wait until your dad, A, gets an anonymous email with his sex tape and thinks he's being blackmailed, B, finds out you've been watching him do the nasty with Mum and is crazy embarrassed, or C, and my favourite option, you pretend to mistakenly find it while showing him something else and the whole family watches Mum and Dad's sex tape. Cheating women don't keep videos on the family's laptop of them stripping and cheating. They're not dudes. And if your mum turns out to be the dumbest cheater ever, then all of this will expose itself soon enough. But she's not, so it won't. But I just want to see the cringe update, so I'm still rooting for C. Opie replies, no, here's what my sister and I decided to do. We're going to sit Mum and Dad down, tell them both at the same time that while we were using their laptop, we noticed there was a lot of junk and we were cleaning it up to make it run faster. In the process, we accidentally stumbled on this file and mistakenly opened without knowing what it was, but closed as soon as we realized. We won't tell them we watched the whole thing, and we won't tell them we suspect cheating. We'll say that the reason we're telling them this is because we think they should save the file in a more secure location, or maybe on a separate hard drive or something so it doesn't get hacked into. If my dad knows about the tape, he'll be like, okay, that makes sense. If he doesn't know about the tape, well, now he would. My god, yeah, Opie did not listen to anything the comments said. Let's see the update. Yeah, things didn't go so well, unfortunately. I kept arguing with my sister. I told her if she's so certain they're cheating, the least we could do is ask Dad first if he knows about the tape, but not mention that we've seen it. She was determined that it was cheating based on the hands and the feet. She was like, those definitely aren't Dad's. I told her she was creepy as F. If that was them in the video, and God knows how many times she's watched it, she was basically watching a video of our mother naked and effing our dad's dick. Even if it wasn't our dad's dick, it's still friggin' gross. She didn't care. I told her if I couldn't stop her, she should at least leave me out of it. I want nothing to do with it. She went nuclear. She went and told them everything and embarrassed the F out of herself. Turns out her little detective work was way off. It was Dad in the video. Our dad was angry but mostly bewildered, but he just laughed it off and got over it. Our mum, however, didn't take it so well. She had a panic attack. She went nuts. She was like, "What the hell is wrong with you kids?" I tried to stay out of it, but my sister dragged me into it and named me as her accomplice, even though I'd warned her against it. Our mum was so hurt and upset, not only that her daughter would so brazenly accuse her of cheating, but that her children had watched an explicit sex tape of her. She was really traumatized. She couldn't take it anymore. She got up and left to her parents' house, where she's been there for a whole day to recuperate. She only called our dad to speak to, and she won't speak to us. Our dad told us to just give it time until she's feeling better. Yeah, what a shocker. Of course that was going to happen. And the sister dragging Opie into it after she told him she wouldn't. She seems determined to be as crappy as possible in this situation. Also, what? She watched the entire video multiple times? I mean, it would have to be multiple times, right? If she was like doing detective work and trying to figure out, what limbs are what. God, I don't know about most people, but if I stumbled upon a video like that about my parents, the laptop would be out the window. Let's read a couple more comments to wrap this one up. I'm just picturing the sister printing out stills and pinning them on a corkboard with red string connected to various theories and suspects, including close-ups of her dad's hands and feet and notes saying, "Not the same." God, I'd be so mad if I was the OP. Like, he told you, you idiot, not to do it. I would have probably just told Dad, "Hey, I accidentally stumbled onto this. You need to teach Mum how to make a password. Don't tell her I told you," or something. I'm mortified for the mum and OP. Yeah, I mean, that would be the sensible way to do it, but as we know on Reddit, most of the time, the sensible way is not taken. Am I the a-hole for cancelling a trip because my fiancé's ex and her baby are coming? I, female 32, have been with Kyle, male 37, for 2.5 years. We got engaged 6 months ago. Kyle has been divorced for over 5 years. He was married to Elena, female 37. They have a son, Grayson, 8. Elena has a toddler from a guy she met after her divorce and dated briefly, Ella, 2.5. Grayson is a wonderful little kid. He has his room in our house and he is so loved by all of us. Kyle and Elena are good friends and co-parenting great. The problem I have is she is everywhere. Besides the holidays and birthdays, which I understand, Christmas, Grayson's birthday and Thanksgiving, Elena and her baby are pretty much invited to any family functions, such as Kyle's birthday, Kyle's parents' anniversary, my birthday. Yes, Kyle invited her to my birthday, our camping trips. I've talked to Kyle many times, but he thinks I'm being insecure for no reason and making a big deal about nothing. I booked a trip to Mexico for January for me, Kyle and Grayson. Kyle told Elena that on the last week of January, we will have Grayson for an extra week since he's coming with us to Mexico. Apparently Elena managed to ask him about our trip dates and details. I saw on Facebook she was posting about swimsuit shopping for her upcoming trip. Kyle texted her and asked her if she's going somewhere that week too. She said she researched our hotel and, quote, "I took advantage of the same deal as you guys, so I guess we'll see you there, haha." I told Kyle then we are cancelling the trip. He said he can't because tickets are non-refundable. I told him then I'm not going. I want for once to have a family vacation without his ex-wife. I want a family vacation without his ex-wife, but Kyle thinks there's nothing we can do now. We need to address this for future plans and to be more clear about boundaries. Something tells me he invited her. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. There's good co-parenting, and there's this. It's nice that they are friends, that they and you are great with Grayson, but you not getting any alone time will drive you apart, and Elena is reveling in it. Elena is a single mum and probably wants to get back with Kyle. This isn't right. Your boyfriend is not looking after you properly. He needs to buck up, or this will not work for you and Kyle. So what changed in their relationship emotionally? It sounds like all that happened is he found a new apartment and having sex with you isn't cheating. They're pretty much still living their married life. Opie replies, I met him after their divorce. He didn't cheat with me. They're still best friends and not sleeping together. We are engaged to be married. She met her daughter's dad and now casually dating others. The get back with Kyle went overboard for me. Same for all the other presumptions below this. She probably enjoys having the family experience for the kids. It's hard being solo because family functions become very difficult to make festive when it's all on you. Opie replies, "That's what Kyle says, that she went through a breakup and she's very lonely, so we're her friends. The thing is, I knew he had a kid from day one and accepted it, but I didn't sign up to be his ex's emotional support sister. Call me selfish, but I'm done being the second choice. I'm going to have a serious talk with him soon." Yeah, fair enough. Alright, Opie makes a separate post. It's titled, "Before leaving the relationship, what are some must-dos?" I just ended an engagement. Yes, right before Christmas. My brother and his girlfriend let me stay with them until I find my place hopefully soon. I packed my clothes and stuff, cancelled the subscriptions, Netflix, Disney, that was under my credit card, wrapped and left the gifts under the tree so they can open it on Christmas morning without me. Transferred half of the rent and utilities for December. My brother will pick up my stuff later. If I buy something for the house, should I take it? Or is it his now since I bought it for the house and it's his house? I bought an air fryer and an Instant Pot and Dyson vacuum. Anything else I should do? One comment asks, "How did the relationship end? Was it a big fight or just a mutual thing because it's just over? If it wasn't so mutual, in any case, if he has access to a bank account or anything else, DoorDash, Uber, something, change the passwords and maybe change your banking login information and make a list of everything he could have used your banking info and credit card, just to make sure that your money stays yours." Opie says, "No fight at all. A lot of tears though, but ended with a hug. He still asked me to reconsider and stay friends, which I said I really can't and I need space. He cried again." Wow, okay, I guess that spoils that. Let's hear how it all happened. First of all, thank you for every single comment. I read all of them. Kyle came home late last night since he was working on a project with his co-worker. He saw me awake and got surprised and asked, "Is everything okay?" I said, "We need to talk." I basically told him that either he tells Elena to cancel her trip and establishes boundaries, or we are done. He said, "Oh my god, are you still on this? I'll talk to her for future events. Let it go for F's sake." I said, "No, this has been my life since we met. She and her baby are always in my hair. I get upset, you convince me to let it go this time, then it happens again." I reminded him that last June we hosted Elena's baby's birthday at our backyard and paid for and did everything, and you told me to let it go. Where is the limit? Will she be invited to our wedding and be in the bridal party? Will she be at our honeymoon? Will she be at the delivery room when I give birth? He said, "We are both tired. Why don't we talk tomorrow?" I told him I can't wait until then. "Will you ask Elena to cancel her trip and tell her about my boundaries?" He said, "I can't make her do anything as she's no longer my wife. I can tell her you don't like her and you can't stand her. Happy?" I said, "I don't feel like I'm ever gonna be your wife. She is more your wife than I'll ever be. She just doesn't like to put out, so you got me for that. That's how I feel. I feel so unloved. If we break up and Elena takes you back, would you get back together with her?" He said, "Stop. You know how much I love you. Why are you saying this nonsense?" I asked again and again, and he said, "What do you want me to say? That if I'm single, will I work things out with Elena? I guess." I got my answer. I gave him the ring and said, "I'll leave tomorrow morning." He said, "What? Are you serious? What's going on tonight?" He started saying how we're going to get married and have babies. He knows I left my previous boyfriend because he didn't want to get married, and he begged me to not leave before holidays. He suggested staying and started cancelling in January. I told him, "I really don't have energy or time for this." He started crying. I was awake all night, crying on and off. In the morning he made me breakfast and hugged me, so uncomfortable, and said, "Please don't end it permanently. Let's be in touch and work on our relationship." I told him, "No, I just can't. Sorry." Again he cried and left for work. I talked to my brother in the morning, and he and his girlfriend will let me stay with them until I find my place. I wrapped the Christmas gifts, for Grayson mostly, and him, and left them under the tree so they can open them on Christmas morning. He asked if I'd at least join them for Christmas morning. I said no. As for the tickets, they were on my credit card. I'll call Air Canada today to see if I can transfer them to my brother and his girlfriend. I'm so grateful for letting me stay at their place. Yeah, I mean, hard to say what I'd do in this situation. It's pretty tricky. What about you guys? Let me know. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Okay, this one's from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was written by a now deleted account, and it's titled, Our Threesome Broke Me. Throwaway, even though I'm absolutely certain my husband would figure out it's about us if he ever came across this post. Also, before I get started, I'm not interested in leaving my marriage. Our relationship is otherwise loving, respectful, kind, and balanced. Now to the story. This turned into a long diary-like post. My apologies for the length. Me, female 35. Him, male 37. Married 16 years. We had a threesome. 2, actually, with the same person. I set it up. It's always been a fantasy of his, and although I was on the fence, there were things I wanted to explore too. We lost our virginity to each other, so our outside experience was very limited. I went on my first solo vacation earlier this year. I don't know if it was the whole absence makes the heart grow fonder or what, but my husband and I were like horny teenagers again when I got back. That's when the whole threesome thing really took off. I set up the dating apps, I wrote what we were looking for, I initiated all conversations. Once I confirmed our match was 100% on board, he joined the chat. He let me lead because in his words he was happy either way. I've always been bi-curious, and he's fantasized about threesomes. Seemed like the only way to flesh it out. We met a few women in person. Our approach was conservative. Talk, go on a date, go from there. Everyone was great about discussing boundaries, and I felt safe. We chose one woman because I didn't want to manage multiple external partners. The first encounter was great, mostly for them. There was an equal attention between all parties, but I was extremely nervous and uncomfortable. Nothing felt enjoyable to me, but they both came, and my husband and I went home. He was very affectionate and encouraging. I chalked my discomfort up to first-time jitters. The second encounter was 2 rounds. The initial date was amazing. Dinner, sightseeing, drinks, great conversation. I legitimately liked her. Round 1, I was more open, but still nervous. I realized then that I wanted to experience a woman on my own, not with an audience like my husband. I felt awkward and inexperienced and embarrassed. They again got along well, great chemistry. He finished in me, and she and I took a shower together. If the night had stopped here, everything would have been fine. Round 2 is what broke me. It was late. We were all staying in the hotel this time, the 3 of us in a king-sized bed. I didn't want to sleep next to her, so my husband was in the middle. At some point, when I was mostly asleep, I could tell they were messing around, just the 2 of them. I froze. This was a boundary that he knew about, but I didn't discuss with her because I trusted him. I don't want to wake up to you 2 messing around. He asked my permission to have sex with her. I should have said anything other than sure, but I was legitimately frozen. I don't know how else to describe it. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, paralyzed by something. I still don't know what. I was lying on my stomach at the edge of the bed while they effed. I could see their shadows on the wall. I heard everything. She said I was a lucky woman as she came a 3rd time, something I've never been able to do. He finished. It made me sick. Right there. I finally got my senses back and ran to the bathroom and was sick. She offered to leave. I'm sure it was awkward, but I asked her to stay. We gave her a ride home in the morning, hugged a goodbye. On the ride back home, my husband and I talked. He made a comment about how the second round was good for his ego. He's lucky if I come at all, let alone multiple times. I sobbed for hours after we got home. I don't know why it hurt so much. My husband was gentle and kind to me after, apologized repeatedly for violating the boundary and for the ego comment. It broke me deeply, but I felt there was nothing to forgive. I set myself up for this. She ended things a couple weeks later. She said I wasn't ready, and she's right. It's been about 4 months since the incident I call round 2. I cannot let it go. How can I measure up to that? How can he be satisfied with me anymore? He has reassured me whenever I brought it up, which was only a couple times, because I don't want to burden him with this. It messed me up to the point where I almost have no sex drive, and I'm numb when he's inside me. I miss our sex life. How do I move on from this experience? Yeah, from what I know, 99% of the time, threesomes do not work, especially with your significant other. Let's go to the comments. Holy crap, I've read this same story a million times. Different people, same story. Sometimes a fantasy should stay a fantasy. Good luck. I think your body is trying to tell you something. Quote, I was extremely nervous and uncomfortable. Nothing felt enjoyable to me. I was more open but still nervous. I felt awkward and inexperienced and embarrassed. I froze, paralyzed by something. This just isn't for you, and you shouldn't force your body to do this anymore. Quote, it was a fantasy of his. I was on the fence. For the love of God, why do people have threesomes if they aren't 100% into the idea? Even then, it can irreparably F up a relationship. If one party isn't 100%, it's almost a guarantee. I don't think this is something you can move on from. You will just have to live with the knowledge of your husband having sex with and enjoying a different woman. First of all, I agree with the commenter who said that your body is trying to tell you the truth. It's time to listen to that. Secondly, I think what's really bothering you is that everything is centered on your husband. You are doing this for him, but what is he doing for you? In a healthy marriage, each person centers the other. You center him and he centers you. That's not what's happening here. His first reaction was to be amazingly self-centered. He not only trampled your boundaries, but he then continued afterwards to put himself first. How could he not feel bad that you were so upset by what happened, that you vomited? Did he even go into the bathroom to hold your hair? Did he do anything to take care of you afterwards? How did he explain that away to himself? I'm going to go with you guys don't have the loving marriage that you seem to think you do. How much of it is purely coming from your position and not from his? Okay, now Opie makes a comment. Last night. More of the same. He does seem genuinely remorseful. He apologized again, but doesn't know how to make it right. I'm not entirely sure either. I did say he needs to seek me out more. A lot of the affection in our relationship is one-sided. I seek him for hugs, hand-holding, quality time, etc. He reciprocates but rarely initiates. What I'd really like to hear is, I cheated. I wanted him to own it full on. I gave him about 15 minutes to read the post and top comments and asked if he noticed a theme. Crazy how it took a boatload of internet strangers to help confirm what I knew but couldn't admit. But I still don't think he grasps the gravity of it. Today is a little different. This was all over text. He threw the shower thing back in my face, even though there are texts well beforehand saying he was okay with she and I having some alone time as long as he was in the room, and he also watched. He also reminded me that I said okay when he asked permission. I saw red and sent a barrage of angry messages. No name calling, just a lot of F-bombs about violated boundaries, lack of awareness and overall selfishness. He hasn't replied yet. I'm not innocent in this. I really, truly acknowledge that. And like I said, if we had ended the evening after round 1 in the shower, I'd still be completely interested on more threesomes. But I saw the side of him that couldn't give two craps about me when he has something to gain. All while I'm in an incredibly vulnerable place. A place where he should encourage, protect and advocate. So hell no, not giving him that opportunity again. I know my marriage will never be the same. Maybe in the long run, that's a good thing. Okay, now for an update. I deleted my original post, but I'm sure it lives on somewhere. Long story short, I came to Reddit 2 weeks ago to hash out some feelings I had following our second female-female-male threesome, July. My husband broke a boundary by having a twosome with the other woman that started while I was sleeping. It felt like infidelity right in front of my face. Thousands of people reacted to the post, most stating that his actions were cheating. Another large portion believed I gave consent because my husband asked my permission and I froze and did not say no. Many people called me stupid. I can understand all perspectives. I agree, it was cheating. You don't ask to change a boundary in the act of breaking it. He understands that now. Hindsight is 20/20. While I disagree with him believing he had consent, I forgive him. He has since genuinely apologized and is remorseful. I agree that a threesome was stupid for us to do and that none of us three were ready for a threesome. I lacked a spine and they lack impulse control. In my original post, I said our marriage was otherwise good. I really truly mean that. We're not perfect, but our relationship was respectful, kind, loving, and balanced. We discussed a threesome for months, going over feelings and potential negative outcomes, but felt the benefit outweighed the risk. Stupid, I know. Again, hindsight is 20/20. I spoke with a marriage counsellor. I explained how I feel traumatized, how my body doesn't respond to my husband since that night, and how I desperately want to stay and leave at the same time. I started looking at apartments and embraced the thought of having space to heal, but my heart was breaking too. In a nutshell, the counsellor said leaving is the easy thing to do. She didn't blame me for wanting to walk away. The pain is real, and living like this is hard. The harder thing would be to stay and work to repair the damage and rebuild the trust that we had for so many years. I'm going to lose a ton of karma for saying this, but I choose to stay and rebuild. My marriage is worth saving, and my opinion matters more than the words of strangers. I will continue individual therapy, and will see a marriage counsellor. And no more threesomes. What a crap show. Yeah, I respect the fact that Opie's willing to stay and try and work it out. I mean, I've said this before, but I think that Reddit comments in particular tend to jump to things really quickly. Like, you don't know what she's feeling, you don't know how hard it might be to walk away. If Opie thinks her marriage is worth saving from this, then it's worth saving. Like, who are we to say otherwise? Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this one down below. Let's end on some final comments. If you read carefully, then they already had sexual problems prior to the threesome. She isn't satisfied with the lack of attention and initiating from her husband, and he is feeling insecure because he can't make Opie come. Bringing a third sexual partner into the mix was a recipe for disaster. 10 years back or so, I had a friend who was in a relationship with a guy. After a while, he wanted a threesome with her best friend. You hear the alarm ringing as well, right? I told her she was stupid if she did that just to please him. She didn't feel like it, but wanted to make him the favour. I bet you can guess what happened. They had a threesome, he mostly effed her best friend, and afterwards she was crying to me for weeks on end. How it broke her seeing her guy F somebody else. It was all she talked about for weeks on end. It's not like I told her for months that it's going to hurt like an MF. Threesomes in relationships are never ever ever a good idea, unless you're really into open relationships and the like. It's so easy to seriously emotionally get hurt. Yeah, I feel like that kind of echoes my sentiment from earlier. My friend wants me to step aside so he can try to date my not girlfriend. A little over 3 years ago, I had just gotten out of a relationship with a girl who was really abusive. I broke up with her shortly before I graduated high school and wanted to take some time to focus on myself. Of course, a few weeks after the breakup, I meet the most gorgeous girl I've ever met, and we really hit it off. I'll refer to her as Lisa. She had also gotten out of an abusive relationship, so neither of us were looking for anything serious. At the time, my driver's license was suspended. Too much speeding, bad time in my life, learned my lesson. And my friend, I'll call him Ken, would offer to drive me to see her. For a few months we would mostly just all hang out together because we all got along really well, and she and I would mostly just cuddle up if we were all watching a movie. Sometimes we would sneak off for a few minutes to make out a little, but not long because we didn't want to be rude to Ken. Lisa and Ken developed their own friendship during this time, but it was obviously platonic on both ends, like an older brother or younger sister dynamic. Ken also had a girlfriend of 4 years then, but they were hanging by a thread. After 6 months, I got my license back, and I'd go see Lisa and take her out without Ken. At that point, Lisa and I started having sex. We both really liked each other, but I panicked and sort of ghosted her for a few weeks. Lisa and Ken continued talking, and he said he wasn't going to stop being friends with her because I was being an idiot. Fair enough. I realized I was being stupid, and Lisa agreed to see me again. We immediately picked right back up where we left off. Around this time, Ken and his girlfriend broke up, so I moved in with him. I would go see Lisa a few times a week, and she would come to our place on the weekends, and we would all hang out. That continued for several more months, until she ghosted me for about 2 weeks. She told Ken she was afraid I would bail again, and she didn't want to go through the pain again. We worked it out, but embarrassingly this cycle has since repeated once or twice, not in over a year though. Over the last year especially, mostly since she turned 18, I've noticed Ken has acted differently around Lisa. He'll flirt with her in front of me. She's very friendly with him, but does not flirt back and pulls away when he touches her. I told him I don't like it, but he said it doesn't matter if he flirts with her. She loves me. She says she doesn't feel that way about Ken at all, and everything indicates that's the truth. Ken has also started drinking more lately, and the other night, Lisa was not here, he started whining about life not being fair. I took the bait and asked what was wrong, and he started rambling about how Lisa is too good for me and I don't deserve her. I agree, but it still ticked me off. He then told me he is in love with her, has been for a while, and if I cared for either of them at all, I'd step aside so he could pursue her. I didn't want to argue with him while he was drunk, so I went to bed. I confronted him in the morning and he doubled down. He said that I can't commit. I can't give her what she wants and needs. She isn't my girlfriend, and she is fair game to try to date. Am I wrong for thinking this is messed up? Lisa and I do have an unconventional relationship, I'll admit. We don't refer to each other as boyfriend or girlfriend, but we don't sleep with other people. We tell each other we love each other. She usually stays at my place, and we have a good relationship with each other's families. I think we're pretty happy together. I know she doesn't want to be with him, so I'm not worried about that. But since Ken said those things, I can't help but question if I'm being unfair to Lisa by holding her back with me. Edit. Info. I did tell Lisa everything Ken said about her and our relationship immediately. She is not interested in him, and he has been making her uncomfortable. Also, because it's been asked a few times, Lisa and I have always been on the same page as far as labelling our relationship, and I'm aware that she is her own person and can be with whomever whenever. Ken is the only one treating this as some competition. Yeah, Ken's got some skewed perception of reality here. Like, even if Opie and Lisa weren't exclusive, it would still be weird. I mean, these guys are living in the same house and one has an intimate relationship with another woman, and yet he's exclaiming his love for her? Geez, that's pretty grim. Ken sounds like he's got a bit of growing up to do. Let's go to the comments. Lol, this woman can make her own decisions. He's treating her like an object. You couldn't give her to him even if you wanted to. You should tell her what happened and distance yourself from him. Opie says, I agree. She's her own person and can make her own decisions regardless of our title. I did tell her what he said, and she's very uncomfortable with it. She's always thought of him more as a brother. F. Ken, that man is not being your friend right now, or hers. Either tell him you won't step aside at all, or just ignore him when he brings it up again. And also, you're still living with him, right? This kind of behaviour, plus frequent drinking, honestly, I'd be wary around him when he's drunk. Opie says, I agree. Still living with him, but looking for a new situation now. If the girl has made it clear that she wants to be with you, or at the very least not him, then continue dating her. It's disgusting and creepy that he wants you to step aside, as if she has no say in the matter. Maybe you can remind him that if she wanted to date him in the first place, she would. He clearly is not a good friend to you, so I wouldn't worry too much about hurting his feelings. Well, Ken probably won't make any progress with her, but do you two just not sleep with other people? Or have you had a conversation about being exclusive? Because Ken isn't the one you should be worried about if you're not exclusive. She's at an age where she's surrounded by interesting people she finds attractive. If she wants explicit exclusion and you won't give it to her, she will find it somewhere else sooner or later. If she's happy, then continue on like you are, but know you might lose her one day because of your loose understanding. And if she's not happy, then maybe talk to her and find out what would make her happy, and then figure out if that will also make you happy, and if you two can't line up, I'd suggest you break up. Opie replies, When we started sleeping together, we did have a conversation and agreed we didn't want to sleep with or date other people, but we also didn't want to put a label on our relationship. We do discuss it occasionally, and have always been on the same page, but we have gotten a lot more serious in the last year. The more I type it out, the dumber it seems to not make things more official though. Ken is obviously free to try his luck, but she has said she's not interested. If anything, he'll just mess up his friendship with her. Yeah, I reckon that last comment was spot on. At this age, you got to make things really clear. Otherwise, assumptions get made and feelings get hurt. Let's go to an update. I wanted to thank everyone that took the time to respond to my post and update anyone who might be interested in the outcome. I've been staying with Lisa for about a week now, since the initial confrontation with Ken, and thanks to people here, I was sure I wanted to ask her if she wanted to make things more official. She ended up making things even easier for me, as luck would have it. Lisa asked me if it might make things easier if I just told Ken that she was my girlfriend. I jumped on that opportunity and asked if I could tell everyone she's my girlfriend, and she said yes. She and I are going to look at a few apartments this week, since I obviously need a new living situation and we want to move in together. Ken and I had a few brief discussions after he told me he wanted to be with Lisa. I had told her everything Ken said to me, and she was not the least bit interested in him, which I had assumed. I also told him that she is officially my girlfriend now, so that should satisfy his concerns about me not committing to her. He refused to believe any of it without confirmation from her, in person, without me around. She initially agreed to meet him on Sunday, with the plan that they would meet at her house, since she lives with her mum and stepdad, but he rejected that, saying he wanted to meet at the apartment, without me there. She told him she wasn't comfortable with that. If he wanted to meet up without me or her parents there, they at least had to be somewhere public. He got ticked that his threatening behaviour made her feel threatened and went on a tirade, calling her every name in the book. She told him she wasn't going to see him again at all and blocked his number. He has tried reaching out to me a few times, ranging from sad to aggressive, and I'm about a text or two away from blocking him as well. Hopefully he'll just move on and it won't come to that. Again, thank you to the posters who helped me navigate this situation. Edit. To clarify, we both wish him well, but neither of us want to continue a friendship with him under any circumstances. Since posting this, I've also blocked him. I agree with posters that there is no point in keeping any lines of communication open anymore. I have also reached out to some friends to help get the rest of my stuff out, but I was already able to get everything important when I first left. He can make a shrine out of my old shirts if he really wants. Couple more comments. Dude, this guy's a creep, and it sounds like he wanted to do something bad to Lisa when they were alone, to be honest. Just cut him out of your life. Opie replies, I agree. I understood him not wanting me in the room or getting his heart broken in the middle of a Starbucks or something, but him rejecting her parents' house when they've always been friendly with him was a big red flag for us. I think you need to drop this friend at this point. He obviously isn't as good of a guy as you thought he was. Choose your girlfriend, not the guy that seems to want to sexually assault her. Opie replies, I don't even think I'm going back to the apartment to get the rest of my stuff. I hope he's able to get his life together, but I can't help him at this point. If he does try to contact her again, then she's going to try to get a restraining order. I've also told mutual friends what is happening, and that he can't know where a new apartment will be under any circumstances. Now for one final comment from OP. Okay, so my stuff is out, thanks to two of my friends, who are also friends of Ken. Friend A tried ahead of time to convince Ken to leave so we could get everything out without him, but it wasn't happening. Ken said he wanted to make sure I didn't mess with his stuff, which is ironic since he tried messing with my relationship. Friend A then offered to act as a buffer so friend B and I could get my stuff out. When we first got to the apartment, Ken was obviously drunk but calm and seemed almost apologetic. I'd already decided I wasn't going to engage with him at all, because I don't see the point anymore. He did not like being ignored apparently, and started going off, gradually saying worse and worse crap. He started saying crap about Lisa, but I was able to ignore him and let it roll off my back, until he told me I might need to F her up and get her in line. He knows her ex before me was abusive. I'm very thankful my friends were able to get me out of there quickly, because I've never been so angry like that in my life. Wow, and that wraps that one up. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Ken's spiraling here a bit, and that's an understatement. And yeah, I also had alarm bells when he was talking about meeting with the girlfriend alone. Like, that's scary stuff. Anyway, yeah, cut him out, get on with your life. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Okay, let's move on to the next story. Okay, we're sticking with the relationship subreddit. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, I've been with my significant other for 9 months, and none of my guy friends respect him or our relationship. I met Derek, my current boyfriend, about 10 months ago at our office. He was pretty quiet, but I thought he was cute, so I started flirting with him, and eventually we started dating. He's definitely different from most of the guys I've dated before. He's a naturally quiet, reserved kind of guy. While we first started dating, he seemed a little nervous, but once we got going, he warmed up. He's really funny. Not in an entertainer group way, but he and I make each other laugh a whole lot. He's also a writer. He's a published author making royalties off of his book. He's thinking of quitting his job at our office to focus on writing. I think he's making a good amount of money. I'm not sure though. We moved in together last month. I was in a sorority in college, and most of my current friends were my sisters, and my guy friends were in fraternities. Most of them date my friends, but a few of them are single, and one of them, Will, has had a crush on me since college. He would ask out every once in a while, and I'd let him down gently. Physically, he wasn't my type. He worked out all the time and just seemed too big for me, like bulky or something. He handled it pretty well. I didn't feel uncomfortable around him or anything. Anyways, the first time I brought him around my friends, like usual, he was pretty quiet. I want to clarify that he's not really socially awkward. He's actually pretty good at reading people. Recently, we all agreed to go camping, and that's when things got weird. All of my guy friends kinda started giving him a little crap about his size and height. He's 5'7", and while being very athletic, he got a scholarship to play cornerback at a small college before he dropped out. His brother said that if he was bigger, he could have played Division I football. All of those guys are taller than he is. My boyfriend went along with it, but he had his angry little smile on his face the whole night. I felt the need to back him up, so I was all over him that night physically. I was sitting in his lap, making out with him. I don't know why, but I felt that would make him shut up. We end up sneaking off, and I start going down on Derek. Unfortunately, Will, who was looking for a place to use the restroom, stumbles upon us. Will left the campsite, but since then everyone's been avoiding it. Everyone also started making fun of my boyfriend constantly. He's been handling it well, but it's really peeing me off. My best friend, who's dating one of these guys, told me that Will told them what happened, and now they all want me to leave Derek for Will. Some of my friends have even told me how good me and Will would be together. Finally, Will gave me a love letter he had written to explain his feelings. I told Will that I'm in the best relationship of my life and I have no desire to leave Derek. Now, apparently Will wants to have a man-to-man with Derek, as if he thinks that he can tell my boyfriend that he's better for me than Derek is. I know Will's been in fights before, and I'm afraid he might violently confront my boyfriend. Derek has no plans to confront him or even see him ever again. At this point, I'm ready to stop hanging out with most of these guys. Most of the girls are staying out of it. Some of them are actively telling them to stop. I feel like if it comes down to it, I can still be friends with my sorority sisters and not have to see the guys, who I'm sure would pick Will over me. What's the right move here? Classic frat boy behaviour. Sounds like they haven't grown up yet. Let's see what the comments think. Your friends are pieces of crap. Regarding Will wanting to have a man-to-man with your boyfriend, tell Will, the fact that you think you can talk to my boyfriend into letting you have me ignores the fact that I have zero interest in you and I find you to be a pathetic little boy. Kindly F off while I go back to blowing Derek, not you. If I was your boyfriend, this would get pretty close to a them or me situation. There comes a time in your mid-20s when you start to realise that you're growing apart or maturing faster than your college friends. I think you've reached that point and are starting to see who your real-life friends are going to be. What they're doing to Derek notwithstanding, they sound like really shallow people who have a lot of interest in themselves and overall will be bad for you as you get older. My wife and I went through something similar when we were in college and dating. She had a large group of guy friends who thought very little of me because I was not as social at the time. In the end, she had to break contact with them as they talked down about me quite often when they were alone with her. To be honest, it bothered me a lot more than I let on, and I felt humiliated and emasculated when we would hang out. I let it slide off me because I was used to being ostracized for being quiet, but internally it hurt a lot. I think you're doing great by Derek with what they're putting him through, but he's likely more affected by this than it appears. Us quiet, logical types tend to internalize way too much, and it's taken years for that to change for me. If you really see a future with Derek, I think you need to firmly take his side and tell the rest they can either be happy for you or find a new friend. Good luck. Whatever happens, it won't be easy, but I think you'll look back on this as a good decision. As an aside, the fact that Will thinks he can buy you off Derek by talking to him is frickin' low. You're a person, not some trading card. Will is the type of guy you keep at 100-foot distance, and frankly, he sounds like a person who refers to all women as bees in private. I'm glad you haven't given him the time of day. Opie replies, Thanks, it was interesting hearing from someone similar to my boyfriend in personality. I'm now planning on doing the same as your wife did. As for Will, yeah, that was weird to me. I think he felt like he could convince him that he was better for me. It was bizarre. Yeah, it is bizarre. Let's go to the first update. Well, today was pretty intense. I went to brunch with the girls that I consider my friends and told them everything, and they're cool with me phasing out the guys. They echoed what some of you said about most of them seeing me as a potential hookup and date. I flat out told the guys that I wasn't going to be hanging out with them, and that Will was beginning to make me feel uncomfortable. Some of them sent private apologies, but I haven't responded. Will decided that he was over me, I guess, and the way to show that was to badmouth me and Derek on social media. He called me a stupid tramp, lamented the fact that a nice guy like him couldn't get with any girl, and told everyone he had seen Derek's penis and it was small. Derek asked for permission to insult him, and I gave it to him before we would delete everything and block him. Derek wrote this: "When did you see my tiny penis?" "Oh, that's right, when you walked in on us and left sobbing," which you did. Anyways, we deleted everything, and at this point all of the guys sent us apologies through text and Facebook, etc., for not realizing Will was an a-hole, for being mean, and for being unwelcoming. I still don't really feel like I want them in my life. Me and Derek are great. I was a little stressed when Will started up, but Derek was laughing the whole time and made me feel a lot better about it. Okay, now for the next update. Well, things happened last night. Derek and I decided to go get something to eat at a sports bar last night so he could catch a little bit of the NFL game on last night. Not really thinking about it, we went to the place down the street. 5 minutes after we order, the whole gang comes barging in, minus Will and another guy. Derek asked if I wanted to go see them. I told him I'd rather not. After 15 minutes of us ignoring them and me realizing that they're being incredibly loud in a not too packed sports bar, two of the single guys, Peter and Kevin, who along with Will were the main instigators of crap, as well as being two of the guys who talked about how they were going to hook up with me in the text conversation my good friend's boyfriend had showed her, and showed me, started mocking him again. I snapped. I didn't yell, but I walked over there with my boyfriend and told both of them that I knew what they said about me, that it would never ever happen, that I'd never even considered it happening, and that I was done with them. I left then. Sally and Kate, my two best friends, as well as Kate's boyfriend Tom, and Jack, who I always felt was a good guy, followed me and my boyfriend out to make sure I was okay and apologise. They all said that those guys were acting like a-holes and would rather be friends with me and my boyfriend. Derek and I thanked them, and we're going out tonight with them. I'm pretty glad that I still have friends. The two guys talked to Derek, and I feel like Derek did a pretty good job of impressing them. He dropped the fact that he used to play college football, and they ate that crap up. I feel like this was the best possible outcome. I get to keep my real friends from this group, cut out the bad ones, and maybe Derek even gets some new friends. Yeah, I reckon Opie's right there. Probably the best possible outcome out of this whole crap show. And yeah, like that comment said, this is a stage in your life where you got to choose your friends, because they're likely going to be around for most of your life from here on out. I set up two of my friends. I found out today he has been catfishing me as his partner on her phone to check up on our friendship. I have a childhood friend, Emily, I've known since we were 5. We originally met because our respective fathers were both German and living in the UK, having married British women. They became friends and we basically were raised as siblings. Nothing remotely romantic has ever happened between us. It's accurate to say I treat her like I do my other sisters. People struggle at times to believe nothing has happened between us, but is it so insane for someone with 3 sisters to treat a childhood friend as a 4th? We stopped being friends briefly when she got married, way too young, to her boss. He ended up being incredibly abusive, controlling her life at every level, and over the 3 years they were together, he basically isolated her from all friends and family. We reconciled when she divorced him. Around this time I attended university and met my now wife early on. We were assigned to the same floor and halls. We've been together for 17 years now, and she's become really close to Emily over the years. Also at university, I met a guy, George, on my course. We were part of the same friendship group, but didn't stay in touch until we coincidentally ended up working together a good 10 years after graduation. I ended up introducing him to Emily, and they started a relationship. A year or so later, they moved in together. Emily was happy, and he was happy. On the face of things, he's seemingly been fine with me and Emily's friendship, and never said anything. Over the past few weeks, I started getting texts from her, sometimes late at night, that were just off. I was suspicious when she used a common British shortening of my full name rather than the traditional German version our respective fathers and she would always use, and when some overly flirty, almost outright sexting occurred, I immediately shut it down, 100% sure it wasn't her. I basically called him out and asked if this was in fact George using her phone, and bluntly asked why he was trying to sext with me as his girlfriend. He never responded, but after explaining the situation to my wife, she went over to Emily's with my phone to see what was going on. I wasn't there for this, but she showed Emily our entire text history and what he had done. George came home and they confronted him. He first outright denied it and had the balls to accuse Emily of sexting me and trying to hide said cheating from my wife by saying he did it. Emily just left with my wife to come stay with us after this because there wasn't any reasoning with him. The morning after, he called and begged her to come home. He was crying and threw himself at her feet, claiming he did it out of jealousy. He highlighted that she was in the habit of deleting our conversations, which drove him mad. An apparent choice she makes for all her texts with everyone, not just me, and he was always jealous of our relationship. He found it hard to see me with her, and after he saw her saying stuff like how she loved me, again, siblings, not being able to read our texts drove him to basically go fishing to establish our relationship. The sexting was an attempt to bluntly see if it was something we, or more specifically I, would engage in. At this point, Emily asked for mine and my wife's opinion on the whole thing. I called bullcrap on this being a mistake, something he was driven to by jealousy. He violated her privacy by going through her phone, risked our friendship by masquerading as her, risked my marriage by trying to bait me into sexting a friend, risked Emily and my wife's friendship by making it look like Emily was sexting me. The entire thing was a clusterfuck. I didn't outright say she should leave him, but I highlighted how dishonest this whole thing was. She eventually went back home and I didn't hear anything for a few days, but Emily eventually revealed to my wife that she had functionally forgiven him. My wife worked out from the conversation what had happened. He had basically flipped the script on me by playing into fears from her marriage. He described me as another controlling male, trying to dictate who she had a relationship with. He encouraged her to make her own decision. Not bad advice in theory, but she had to ignore me because I didn't have her best interest at heart. I was controlling her like her ex. My wife quietly pointed out he was in fact being like her ex, not me. He was driving a wedge between her and family. At this point, Emily just gave up, said she couldn't win, and couldn't decide between the man she loves and her brother, so F it, let's pretend it never happened. We haven't really spoken since. Apparently part of forgetting this ever happened is also giving into his worries about our friendship. Every time I try and bring up what he did, I've either been ignored to told to stay out of it. Honestly, this pees me off that he's gotten exactly what he wanted. He stopped us talking. I know I can't force her to break up with him, but it's seemingly a catch-22. I can't push her to make a decision about what he did, whilst he's got her convinced I'm controlling her. I rarely see George at work, and he's rightly kept the F away from me. I was tempted to bring my sisters into this mess, tell them what happened, and they love her like a sister too, and see if they can talk some sense into Emily, but that's somewhat manipulative too. So, any advice here? Let crappy sleeping dogs lie? Try and get her to deal with what he did rather than sweeping it under the rug? Geez, yeah, sounds like textbook emotionally abusive, over-controlling boyfriend behaviour. I feel like there's a bloody pandemic of insecure men like this these days. Okay, let's go to the comments. Well, it's obvious Emily has an emotionally abusive boyfriend. Accusing her of cheating and isolating her from her friends are classic symptoms of emotional abuse. As you pointed out, the sad thing is that she has accepted the situation and is doing exactly what he wanted, which was to break the two of you up. Let's face it, Emily only had two choices: break up with her boyfriend or go along with what he wants for the sake of the relationship. She's chosen the relationship, at least until her boyfriend does something else even more abusive to her. I understand that you feel sad about losing your childhood friend, but you have to accept it for the time being. Don't try to interfere in their relationship and don't involve your sisters. The only thing you can hope for is that Emily will finally see what George is really like and dump him, but that may take some time. Just try to hang in there. Opie replies, The reason I wanted to involve my sisters is he hasn't told her she can't talk to them or my wife. His supposed issue with me is I'm male and he's jealous. His exact words were he is worried me and Emily are, quote, a few bottles of wine and the opportunity short of effing. He's isolating her from me on the face of it out of sheer jealousy at our 30-plus year friendship. If he does turn around and stop her from seeing her other childhood friends, I'd like to think she'd notice what he was doing. Currently, he's hiding behind, I'm uncomfortable with your relationship, to shut down my criticism of him. He can't play that card with my sisters, hence wanting them involved. I haven't done it because it feels manipulative as hell. I can pretend it's for her own good all the live long day, but fundamentally what I would be doing is specifically involving her with X people with an intention to damaging her relationship with Y person. It's just controlling who she's around with extra steps, and that doesn't sit well with me. She asked my opinion once, I told her, and her conclusion was to pretend this never happened. Repeating it until she does what I think is best isn't fair. I agree it's probably best to just let this play out. In my opinion, no one is going to talk her into coming to her senses. You say that she was in a marriage already where she was abused, and you didn't talk again until they got a divorce. The same thing will happen with this one. Doing anything more to try to get her to leave him will make you look like the bad guy, and honestly, I would just leave it alone. Yeah, I guess the argument can be made both ways here. Like, some people might think it's good to step in and, be insistent on ending the relationship, whereas, like the comments here and what Opie thinks, they prefer to just leave it alone. I mean, I feel like the area is pretty grey between, letting someone make their own decisions, but also identifying the fact that they probably have bad judgment in this area. Yeah, it's tricky. What would you guys do? Let me know. Either way, let's move on to an update. I thought I'd update this post, seeing as there was part of a resolution and the advice was good. So I followed the general advice of just leaving the entire situation alone. I agree, any interference from me or my family would be manipulative and controlling, albeit well-meaning. So I haven't really spoken to Emily since slightly before Christmas, but her mother contacted me a little after New Year to ask if I knew what was going on with her. Emily's cousin back in Germany had contacted her mother, saying she had turned up on her doorstep, having flown in from the UK on the 4th after apparently breaking up with George. According to her mother, Emily had come back to our hometown for the holidays. She brought George, and at some point they ran into her ex-husband at the pub. For context, we grew up in a tiny village in the arse end of nowhere. There's literally nothing to our village but a pub, a post office, and a small supermarket. Her ex still lives where we grew up. So this is all information relayed to me via Emily's mother, but apparently at some point George approached Emily's ex-husband and asked for some advice. George is familiar with the story of their relationship and knew how controlling he was and why they divorced. Somewhat to her ex-husband's credit, he apparently refused to answer any questions and quietly approached Emily's mother to relay what he had asked. Now this is according to him, and George denies it, but he said George asked him how to, quote, handle me in terms of my friendship with Emily. I've no idea what Emily's ex-husband's motivation was here, but they've been divorced for a decade now, and he hasn't contacted her in this time, so I'm inclined to believe it wasn't further attempts at interfering with her life. Maybe it was actually manipulation. Maybe in the decade since they've divorced he's become a better man, who knows. We're all inclined to believe that is what was asked, despite George denying it, because how else would her ex-husband know he had an issue with me recently? He isn't in contact with anyone who would know about the recent issues. Also, to be honest, the ex never had an issue with me. He saw me as a child, despite being the same age as his wife then, and constantly called me kiddo and asked how school was. It would be a very specific shot in the dark on his part to assume George had an issue with me without George saying so himself. So, her mother told Emily what George had tried to do and pointed out that her boyfriend is now trying to emulate her ex-husband's behaviour and encouraged her to confront him over this and also what happened over the last month rather than ignoring it. Nobody was privy to the discussion they had, but he left sometime after it to return to their shared home, and she stayed with her mother, saying they had broken up. She stayed with her mother until the day after, where she, without any warning, left for Germany. The cousin she's staying with assures us she's relatively fine. She's just overwhelmed and embarrassed she let this happen again. She couldn't handle being where she might run into either ex, so staying with her mother was off the table, and she just ran somewhere far, but safe. I still haven't spoken to Emily. I've sent her a message with some condolences and reassurance she will always have a home here in the UK. I've decided to continue to give her space, whilst making it clear I am there for her. She hasn't responded, but I assume this is just out of awkwardness over what happened, and how technically George was once my friend. He hasn't spoken to me either, and I haven't seen him at work at all. So yeah, not a happy ending per se. It shouldn't have taken her abusive ex getting involved for a resolution, but as people predicted, George was being abusive and he would repeat that behaviour. I suppose it was relatively painless that he showed his true colours so emphatically without much further abuse. This could have dragged on. Thanks for the advice. Me staying out of it didn't make this any easier for her, but it probably avoided making it worse. Yeah, I guess there's a silver lining there in the fact that, like Opie said, he displayed his true colours pretty early on, and it never got physical or anything like that, so that's good. Okay, Opie provides one last update on the situation. I jumped the gun a little with the previous update, and looking back I hadn't actually spoken to Emily, and it was all second-hand information. TLDR of everything so far is my childhood friend, Emily, then boyfriend George, sexted me as her to try to see if anything was going on between us. After being confronted, he approached her abusive ex-husband, and she left him, realising twice now she's fallen for abusive men. Given this whole thing now has been entirely sorted in the 3 months since it happened, I thought I'd actually give an actual full resolution. So, Emily came back to the UK just before the country was locked down and moved in with us, reluctantly. We grabbed some beers and played Divinity 2, whilst we hashed out exactly what went down from her perspective. I apologised for going behind her back and speaking to her mother about it all. Situations like this are never helped by information being relayed through other people, and I asked if she wanted to go through it all, start to finish. Basically, she buried her head in the sand the day she found out he'd been trying to sext me as her. It was just too much. She couldn't win. She either lost the man she loved and the lifestyle she had, or lost her brother. I assured her she'd never lose me, but she revealed she low-key hated the fact she let herself be taken advantage of like this twice, and couldn't face me having not listened to my advice. She also mentioned that breaking up with him would inevitably land her on my doorstep for support, and that made her feel bad also, hence escaping to Germany and not talking to me about this. This went deeper, and she opened up about her insecurities, how she regretted not going to university, instead marrying her abusive ex-husband, and how she feels like an accessory to other people's happiness. She saw me and my wife, a power couple as she put it, and just felt so small by comparison. She did love George, but leaving him would leave her with functionally nothing again, and she couldn't handle that. We talked about this a lot. I revealed I was aware my support of her could be a problem. I was feeling like I had made their relationship awkward by being so involved in her life. It might have been hard for George, feeling like her boyfriend whilst I was there picking up her tabs, doing the DIY, and basically acting like a father coddling his child. I asked if my, with retrospection, financial support of her tied into this feeling of inadequacy, like I was dragging her along for my ride, and she said it was a problem. She felt trapped when the relationship ended because she had no independence or true control. Whilst I would never use my position to control her, she would still be living by someone else's good graces. She felt she needed to stand on her own 2 feet, be her own woman, rather than relying on a man, no matter how much she loved and trusted him. That way her decisions would be her own, rather than under some level of duress. In the same way a child wants independence from her parents, she feels she finally needs independence from me. So we came up with a game plan. Now the lockdown has obviously made this harder. She is still living with me and my wife currently, but the plan is she's going to go back into education. She was capable of attending university, had the qualifications, but decided not to due to marriage. My financial security was really born of an inheritance I had after my father died, life insurance. I used to not have to worry about rent during my extended time in education and early career. I bought a small flat with it I still owned. I've decided to pay it forward and put her in a similar situation by letting her use my flat, which is currently unoccupied because it's only been rented to students due to its proximity to 2 universities. Yes, this is me financially supporting her, but in a strictly limited way. No more covering errant bills, paying for holidays, or footing the bill when we socialise. She will not pay rent, but she will cover all bills on the flat, and she moves out the moment she's in work. She didn't love the idea of me owning her home, but I called it as my last act as that guy in her life, the pseudo-brother, father, sugar daddy, best friend. After this, we'll just be independent siblings and best friends. She will be moving soon. We'll need her room after all, since my wife is now 5 months pregnant. Turns out she's been pregnant since late December when all of this started. As for George, he swears up and down he never asked the ex-husband to, quote, handle me. He claims he asked how to be fine with me. It wasn't seeking advice how to deal with me. It was seeking advice how to be fine with me the way her ex-husband was. Could be true, who knows. It's irrelevant ultimately. Though we recently found out George moved a girlfriend into the house him and Emily used to share, and here's the kicker, it's a long-time friend. Emily is fairly certain he never cheated on her, but she out loud laughed when she found out he's romantically living together with a long-time friend 3 months after the breakup. The dude's insecurity was likely born of his own feelings for a friend. He was getting close with a girl he was friends with, so he projected that onto me and Emily. Yeah, interesting analysis on that. It probably was projection. God, if only George was self-aware, right? Okay, Opie gives some final comments to clear some things up. Edit. Just to clarify, because this paints a picture I don't intend, I don't pay all of Emily's bills, nor for her stuff and holidays. She doesn't want independence from me specifically, she wants independence full stop. She went from her parents to her now ex-husband, and then spent about a decade living paycheck to paycheck before meeting George and living largely off his money. She has no real qualifications and her current line of work has limited prospects. The things I do for her come in 2 categories, and the lack of clarity between the one-offs and the consistent things made it look like I pay for her entire world. Firstly, there's the trivial stuff I do consistently that I'm stopping as a massive overreaction to George. Logically, it's fine that a brother and his wife do these things for his sister, but they weirdly make her uncomfortable, and it's obviously made her ex uncomfortable. Stuff like I've done the odd bit of DIY, specifically fixing a vacuum, which isn't insane given I work in R&D for a vacuum brand, and I pay for her drinks and stuff if we socialise. I'm stopping all of that trivial level of support, largely at her request, to ease her discomfort at being subsidised by me. It's a pride thing. This might also help with any jealous boyfriends wrongly assuming because I pay for her cinema ticket, along with my wife, we're secretly Mormon. The second category were the big one-off things, like paying that bill or buying plane tickets, things I did in a crisis and or out of extreme generosity once. She wants to be able to be safe during crap like COVID without needing to live with me. She wants to be able to break up with a guy and be okay alone rather than crashing here. She wants to be able to F up a meter reading on her electricity and weather the silly bill that comes without me paying it. That happened once. I'm not going to stop doing these things entirely. An emergency is an emergency. We won't let her come to any harm. But instead we're going to try and make it so that she doesn't need me to do these things via an education and hopefully a better job. So yeah, I don't pay for her entire life. I just muddled some big things I've done in an emergency in with some trivial brotherly support. Yeah, okay, I think that clears things up pretty well. And yeah, I really feel for people like Emily. A lot of them pretty much throw away their lives really early on, in their prime years, just to marry some dude in some deadbeat town. Next thing you know, 5 years later, they beat him up, divorce, and it's all wasted time. Not just that, but wasted potential as well. I've seen it firsthand. What about you guys? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you got some similar stories. Anyway, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.